Chapter 1359. If Chu Fengmian killed the Riflame young master outside, the Riflame Palace master would definitely be able to deduce that it was Chu Fengmian who killed the Riflame young master. At that time, it would be extremely troublesome to provoke an 8th Tribulation Emperor Gu. However, if Chu Fengmian killed the Riflame young master in the Immoral Burial Continent, even a heavenly being wouldn't be able to deduce it. The Immoral Burial Continent had always been a good place to settle grudges. Every time the Immoral Burial Continent appeared, many martialists would come to the Immoral Burial Continent. However, they wouldn't die at the hands of the Immoral Burial Continent's ominous grounds, but at the hands of their enemies. The Riflame young master had probably found out about Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang's identities. Therefore, it wasn't good for him to take action outside, so he planned to do it in the Immoral Burial Continent. It's not good to take action outside, but it's fine to kill the Riflame young master in the Immoral Burial Continent. Murderous intent flashed across Chu Fengmian's eyes. His strength had improved and he was just about to find a few people to take action against when the Riflame Palace master came knocking on his door. Senior brother, the Riflame Palace master had 2 Emperor Gu. Although Luo Kang had guessed some of Chu Fengmian's thoughts, he was still shocked when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Those were 2 Emperor Gu. Although the 2 Emperor Gu of the Riflame Palace master combined might only be slightly stronger than Elder Sword Bone, Luo Kang had killed Elder Sword Bone. However, the reason why Chu Fengmian was able to kill Elder Sword Bone was mostly due to the Yin Blood Flood Dragon. If it wasn't for the Yin Blood Flood Dragon, it would have been impossible for Chu Fengmian to kill Elder Sword Bone. How could Luo Kang not be shocked when Chu Fengmian said that he was going to kill the Riflame young master and his group? So what if there are 2 Emperor Gu? Chu Fengmian said casually when he heard Luo Kang's words. His tone was filled with absolute confidence. Alright, since senior brother is confident, let's go. Luo Kang had extraordinary trust in Chu Fengmian. He nodded his head when he saw how confident Chu Fengmian was. The Riflame young master and his group shouldn't be far away. Let's hide ourselves first and go over. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and hid himself in Luo Kang. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, it would be difficult for Emperor Gu to discover him as long as he didn't get too close. The 2 of them quietly left the valley. At the same time, Chu Fengmian activated his spiritual awareness and scanned the surroundings. A dozen martialists were standing on a mountain peak not far from the valley. Their gazes were all fixed in the direction of the valley. Young master, that Luo Kang didn't die. Could it be that old man Sword Bone spared them? A Sunfire Hall disciple said with flickering eyes. However, why did old man Sword Bone and Chu Fengmian disappear? Could it be that Chu Fengmian handed the sword totem to old man Sword Bone? Is that why you let them go? Another Sunfire Hall disciple said. Or could it be that Elder Sword Bone knows that these 2 are disciples of the Holy Dragon sect, so he doesn't dare to touch them? In just a few days, the group of people from the Sunfire Hall had already found out the identities of Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang. Impossible. Old man Sword Bone has always been a fearless person. Even the disciples of the Holy Dragon sect don't have the qualifications to make him retreat. However, there must be something fishy about this. Let's wait here. I don't believe that old man Sword Bone can hold himself back. Young Master Rian's eyes were cold. His plan this time wasn't just to kill Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang, but also to kill old man Sword Bone as well. That old man Sword Bone has killed countless Emperor Gu. Although his actions are secretive, they can't be hidden from me. This person also has a shocking amount of wealth. Killing him can make a fortune. Young Master Rian turned his head and said to the 2 elders behind him. Elders, I'll leave old man Sword Bone to the 2 of you. Rest assured, young master. With the 2 of us working together, old man Sword Bone will definitely die. One of the Sunfire Hall elders said confidently. The other elder had a worried look on his face. But young master, are we really going to kill those 2 disciples of the Holy Dragon sect? They didn't care about killing old man Sword Bone. Old man Sword Bone didn't belong to any sect or background. He didn't even have many friends and could be killed as they wished. However, Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang were disciples of the Holy Dragon sect. When the Holy Dragon sect was mentioned, they could think of one person. Yunzun, the first emperor of all times. The Holy Dragon sect's strength was all because of Yunzun. Who would dare to go against a half-step heavenly being? If you want to kill them, then kill them together. What's there to be afraid of? Our Avalon of 5 elements isn't afraid of the Holy Dragon's secret realm. Moreover, this is the immortal burial continent. No one will know if we kill those 2 brats. Young Master Rian's eyes flashed with intense killing intent. Previously, Chu Fengmian had slapped his face at the auction. This incident was still fresh in his memory. He hated Chu Fengmian to the core. Even though he had found out Chu Fengmian's identity, he had no intention of letting him go. Is that so? You're really arrogant. You want to kill us? Do you think you can rely on a bunch of weaklings like you? At this moment, a voice was heard. In the sky not far from the mountain peak, 2 figures suddenly appeared. It's you! Young Master Rian looked in the direction of the voice. When he saw the 2 figures, he was stunned for a moment before he sneered. Chu Fengmian, Luo Kang, you still dare to come out? It seems like Old Sword Bone didn't kill you for some unknown reason. However, since you've delivered yourselves to my doorstep, then die. I'll kill you first before killing Old Sword Bone. Attack! Following young Master Rian's words, the Rian Palace's disciples attacked without hesitation. They directly attacked Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang. You deal with young Master Rian and the others. I'll deal with these 2 old men. Chu Fengmian glanced at Luo Kang and said. All right. Luo Kang nodded. If it was before, he might be on par with young Master Rian. It wouldn't be a problem for him to fight one-on-one. However, with the Rian Palace's disciples, he wouldn't be able to contend against them. However, this time, he had obtained 3 5 elements heaven-grade spiritual weapons. When he was refining the elixir, he had already recognized the 3 spiritual weapons as their master. Thus, his strength had skyrocketed. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the 5-colored light behind Luo Kang immediately flew out. At the same time, 4 heaven-grade spiritual weapons flew out together and attacked young Master Rian. Young Master Rian didn't expect Luo Kang to possess such strength. He was careless and was sent flying. Protect the young master. The 2 elders standing behind young Master Rian were just about to make a move when a sword light shot towards them. Chapter 1360. How dare a junior act so presumptuously? One of the elders looked at Chu Fengmian's sword light with disdain. With a wave of his hand, he gathered his spiritual energy to block the sword light. Ah! Suddenly, blood gushed out from the wound. Not only did the elder's spiritual energy fail to block the sword light, but his right hand was also cut off. Chu Fengmian's sword light was not to be underestimated. His current strength was even stronger than Old Sword Bone's. It was impossible for Emperor Gu to block it with his bare hands. How is this possible? How can the sword light be so sharp? The elder was in disbelief. He could not believe his eyes. Chu Fengmian was only a quasi-emperor. They could clearly see that Chu Fengmian was only a quasi-emperor. To Emperor Gu, even true emperors were ants, let alone a quasi-emperor. In their eyes, Chu Fengmian was even less than an ant. That was why they took action to block the attack. However, they did not expect Chu Fengmian's sword light to be so powerful that it was beyond their imagination. Although his severed hand had just regrown, it had consumed a lot of energy. Be careful, this kid is up to no good. So what? He's just a quasi-emperor. Even if his strength is a little strange, no matter how strong his sword light is, he won't be a match for us. Let's kill him quickly and go help young master. One of the elders snorted coldly. This guy's swordsmanship is most likely comprehended from the Sword Dao Totem. The Sword Dao Totem is indeed a treasure of the Sword Dao. After killing this kid, we can also obtain the Sword Dao Totem. Let's study it first. Kill! Don't give him a chance to display his swordsmanship. the two elders ended their spiritual communication in an instant. At the same time, they unleashed all of their spiritual energy. Incomparably overbearing spiritual energy burst out at the same time. Large balls of flames flew out from their hands and flew towards Chu Fengmian. The two balls of flames merged together and turned into a sea of fire that surged towards Chu Fengmian. Streaks of golden light flew out from the bodies of the two of them, integrating the laws of the world into this sea of fire. The sky above turned into a sea of fire, as if it wanted to devour Chu Fengmian completely. These two elders were no match for Elder Sword Bone in a one-on-one fight. However, their worldly laws were of the same origin. Once they joined forces, their strength was close to that of the 8th Tribulation Emperor Gu. Even Old Man Sword Bone would be in great danger if he were to be trapped in this sea of flames. It was no wonder that they were confident in killing Old Man Sword Bone. However, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid at all. Although the flames were strong, he had the ice-fire divine body and had been tempered by the jade cloud fruit orchid. His innate spiritual power had been stimulated. Chu Fengmian pointed with his finger and blue mysterious ice began to condense beside him. Ordinary mysterious ice would likely be instantly vaporized by this flame. However, the blue profound ice that Chu Fengmian had condensed was stacking layer upon layer around Chu Fengmian. It completely blocked Chu Fengmian's surroundings. No matter how much the sea of flames burned, it was unable to harm Chu Fengmian. What is this thing? Blue ocean mysterious ice? Isn't this thing only found in extremely cold places? The two elders' expressions changed when they saw the blue ocean mysterious ice. There were very few things in the world that could withstand the temperature of their flames. However, the blue ocean mysterious ice was one of them. It was said that it could only be found in extremely cold places. They never expected that the mysterious ice that contained innate divine power would appear on Chu Fengmian's body. Don't use the flames. Use your strength to kill this child. One of the elders reacted instantly. He withdrew the flames and took a step forward to Chu Fengmian. Then, he threw a punch at Chu Fengmian. Even though he was using his bare hands, this elder possessed the strength of Emperor Gu. With a punch, the blue ocean mysterious ice was instantly shattered. This made him happy. Then, he threw another punch at Chu Fengmian. Do you think that you can kill me with your strength? That's wishful thinking. Not only did Chu Fengmian not retreat when he saw the arrival of the elder, but he also took a step forward. The power of the primordial heavenly dragon in his body was completely activated, and he also sent out a punch. This punch contained the strength of Primogenitor's second move. Although it wasn't able to display its full strength, it was still 80% of the power of Primogenitor's second move. The moment the punch was thrown out, the entire sky was filled with the roars of dragons. In fact, countless images even appeared out of nowhere. They were images of powerful beings of the dragon race battling one after another. The 129,600 blood and flesh crystals in Chu Fengmian's body condensed at the same time. They became indestructible. Boom! The two fists collided. The elder's punch was instantly shattered. His arm was torn apart and a large amount of blood flowed out. His body trembled and countless cracks appeared on it. The elder's body was shattered by Chu Fengmian's punch. As for Chu Fengmian, he took on the power of the elder's punch. He distributed all of the power to the 129,600 crystals and easily neutralized it. Chu Fengmian didn't even take a single step back. He easily neutralized the full force of the punch. What is this power? How can his body be so tough? The elder's body trembled as he retreated. His fleshly body wasn't strong, and he was planning to sacrifice his fleshly body to kill Chu Fengmian once and for all. However, he had never imagined that after taking a punch from Chu Fengmian, his body would explode and shatter. Yet, Chu Fengmian was completely unaffected. There was not a single wound on Chu Fengmian's body. It was as if his punch had not even landed on Chu Fengmian's body. It was impossible that his punch didn't land on Chu Fengmian's body. He could clearly feel that his punch did land on Chu Fengmian. However, even an 8th Tribulation true emperor might not be able to take a punch from him unscathed. Suppress him. Chu Fengmian saw the elder and quickly retreated. He suddenly reached out with his hand. The elder felt as if his body was being bound by an enormous force. No matter how he channeled his spirit energy, he couldn't escape from Chu Fengmian's palm. He was immediately suppressed by this force. What? Elder Yengu is suppressed just like that? The disciples of the Riffire Hall nearly fainted from fright when they saw Elder Yengu being suppressed by Chu Fengmian. This was an Emperor Gu, an Emperor Gu. How could a quasi-emperor suppress an Emperor Gu? This was beyond their imagination. Chapter 1361. Who exactly are you? The other elder of the Solar Flame Hall looked at Chu Fengmian with flickering eyes. Since you are also Emperor Gu, there is no need to hide. Who exactly are you and why are you opposing the Solar Flame Hall? The elder of the Solar Flame Hall had already confirmed that Chu Fengmian was definitely hiding his strength and that his identity was fake. He must have been impersonated by someone else. Was a quasi-emperor enough to suppress Emperor Gu? Impossible. Didn't you guys already investigate my background? Chu Fengmian smiled casually when he heard the elder of the Solar Flame Hall. All the battles in the Immortal Burial Continent couldn't be deduced from the outside world. Because of this, Chu Fengmian didn't even bother to disguise himself and directly revealed his true body to fight. You are Emperor Gu, yet you can't even see through my strength? You have wasted your life. Chu Fengmian looked at Emperor Gu and shook his head with a mocking look in his eyes. The elder of the Solar Flame Hall was furious when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. No matter who you are, only death awaits you if you oppose the Solar Flame Hall. You don't have to oppose the Solar Flame Hall for some juniors. Release Yengu now and leave quickly. This old man can pretend that nothing happened today. Pretend that nothing happened today? The Solar Flame Hall? You don't have the authority to do so. Chu Fengmian laughed heartily when he heard the elder of the Solar Flame Hall. Just a bunch of dead people. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Sword of the Nine Regions. Chu Fengmian aimed the sword peak cave in his palm at the Solar Flame Hall elder and slashed out with his sword. Die! The elder of the Solar Flame Hall had already prepared his killing move. When Chu Fengmian slashed out with his sword, he also formed a huge palm with his spiritual energy and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. This palm was simply going to crush the horizon. Sword. Chu Fengmian did not move. He only looked at the incoming palm. Only then did the sword in his hand move. In the blink of an eye, he aimed at the palm and slashed it. Boom! Under Chu Fengmian's sword, the palm was easily crushed and turned into a cloud of blood mist, which was directly shattered by the sword's sharpness. At the same time, Chu Fengmian clawed at the elder of the Solar Flame Hall. His palm turned into a massive war dragon claw and suppressed the body of the elder of the Sun Flame Hall. No! I am Emperor Gu. No one can suppress me. The Solar Flame Hall elder felt an immense pressure pressing down on his body. In an instant, he unleashed all the power in his body. A mayfly trying to shake a tree. With a cold snort, the power of the battle dragon claw increased by several folds. In an instant, it pressed onto the body of the Sunfire Hall's elder, causing him to vomit blood. The spiritual energy in his body was completely shattered. The Sunfire Hall's elder's eyes were filled with fear. Before he could react, his body was continuously compressed. In the next moment, he turned into a tiny person in Chu Fengmian's palm. He was suppressed like Elder Yengu. Then, Chu Fengmian's body flashed and landed beside Luokang. Luokang had already killed most of the disciples of the Solar Flame Hall. Only Riflame Young Master was left. He was bitterly holding on, but he still wasn't Luokang's match. Luokang! Chu Fengmian, the two of you just wait. Since you dare to besiege me today, I will definitely tell my father about this in the future. At that time, no one will be able to save your lives. Even though Luokang had forced Riflame Young Master into a corner, he still refused to admit defeat, unwilling to give up. Just wait. My father will definitely kill you. You are provoking the Solar Flame Hall and the entire Avalon of 5 elements. You talk too much. Luo Kang snorted coldly in response to Rift Lame Young Master's words. However, the 4 heaven-grade spiritual weapons in front of him weren't idle. They bombarded Rift Lame Young Master again and again. Under the bombardment, Rift Lame Young Master couldn't take it anymore and was suppressed by Luo Kang. He was also held in Luo Kang's palm. No matter how hard Rift Lame Young Master struggled, he couldn't break free. Phew. After suppressing Rift Lame Young Master, Luo Kang heaved a sigh of relief. If he hadn't obtained the 3 heaven-grade spiritual weapons, he wouldn't have been Rift Lame Young Master's match. Although Rift Lame Young Master wasn't considered a genius, he was still the young master of the Solar Flame Hall. He had many good items on him. Luo Kang had to spend a lot of effort to suppress him. Senior brother, have you already dealt with the 2 elders? Luo Kang asked in disbelief when he raised his head and saw Chu Fengmian. Although Chu Fengmian was only responsible for dealing with 2 people, he was dealing with 2 Emperor Gu. How could he be so fast? And Chu Fengmian nodded. At the same time, he opened his hand. The 2 Solar Flame Hall elders were firmly suppressed in Chu Fengmian's palm. They couldn't move at all. This made Luo Kang suck in a breath of cold air. He had some doubts about Chu Fengmian's strength before. Now that he saw the 2 Emperor Gu suppressed in Chu Fengmian's palm, he was almost shocked. Even Elder Sword Bone might not be a match for the 2 Sunfire Hall elders, let alone the 2 of them in such a short period of time. Senior brother's strength is really terrifying. I'm afraid that when senior brother steps into the Emperor realm, he can immediately reach the level of Emperor Gu. Luo Kang looked at Chu Fengmian and exclaimed. Peerless Emperor Gu. I didn't expect that my holy dragon sect could give birth to another peerless Emperor Gu. I'll take my leave first. It's not good to stay here for long. Chu Fengmian didn't reply. Instead, he observed the surroundings. His spiritual sense had already discovered that the battle in the vicinity had attracted many cultivators. There were often battles in the Immortal Burial Continent, which would attract many cultivators and monster gods. They wanted to try their luck and see if they could take advantage of the situation where both sides were injured and take advantage of the situation. It was impossible for outsiders to know that Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang had intercepted and killed the people of Solar Flame Hall. However, it would be troublesome if the people of the Immortal Burial Continent saw it. After all, the Solar Flame Hall Master was an 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu. Chu Fengmian was confident that he could kill a 7 Tribulation Emperor Gu. However, if he encountered an 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu, the current Chu Fengmian could only be beaten up. Emperor Gu had 3 realms. The gap between each realm was extremely huge. Otherwise, old man Jian Gu wouldn't be so eager to break through. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Luo Kang nodded and grabbed young Master Riflame. With a flash of his body, he disappeared from the sky. Chapter 1362. Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang did not go far. Instead, they returned to the valley from before. Chu Fengmian had set up a formation restriction in the valley. It was extremely well hidden and ordinary martial artists would not be able to discover it. Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang landed in the depths of the valley and released the 2 elders of the Rian Hall and Rian Young Master. However, Chu Fengmian had planted countless restrictions on the 3 of them. Their powers were completely sealed. It could be said that they were no different from cripples. Any martial artist would be able to kill them. Now, the 2 of them had their powers sealed by Chu Fengmian and were kneeling before Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang. Senior brother, how do you plan to deal with these 3 people? Luo Kang glanced at Rian Young Master and the others and asked with flickering eyes. Should we keep them alive and ask for benefits from the Rian Hall or kill them directly? The Rian Hall Master is the only one left. If we keep him alive, we can ask for benefits from the Rian Hall. Kill them directly. Chu Fengmian said coldly when he heard Luo Kang's words. Asking for benefits? Chu Fengmian did not lack wealth now. After all, he had a large amount of spiritual stones and wealth. He did not need to provoke the Rian Hall. Instead, he would get himself into trouble. All right. Luo Kang nodded when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Senior brother, the blood of these two elders of the Rian Hall is useful to me. Luo Kang glanced at the two elders of the Rian Hall and said to Chu Fengmian. He cultivated the Tao of the five elements. The two elders of the Rian Hall were pure fire spirit cultivators. Their blood essence would be of great use to Luo Kang. Feel free to take it. Chu Fengmian said casually. The blood essence of these two people was not of much use to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian killed them not to obtain any benefits, but to solve some problems. Although the two of them were Emperor Gu, the benefits they could bring to Chu Fengmian were not even 1/10 of what Elder Sword Bone could bring. Chu Fengmian was able to obtain such great benefits from killing Elder Sword Bone not only because Elder Sword Bone was Emperor Gu, but also because he was a sword cultivator. Chu Fengmian could devour Elder Sword Bone's power without restraint. The two Sunfire Hall elders in front of him were useless to Chu Fengmian. He couldn't even be bothered to devour them. Since Luo Kang needed them, he might as well give them to him. Thank you, senior brother. Luo Kang laughed when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. He already knew that Chu Fengmian wasn't a stingy person. Chu Fengmian's character was very simple. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That was why Luo Kang had always been on good terms with Chu Fengmian. With Chu Fengmian's character, he would never harm him. After Luo Kang finished speaking, he grabbed an elder of the Sunfire Hall. With a wave of his hand, he killed the elder on the spot and swallowed the blood mist that filled the sky. At the same time, Luo Kang slowly sat on the ground and circulated the spiritual energy in his body. He began to devour the essence blood of the Sunfire Hall elder. Emperor Gu's essence blood could be sold at a high price outside. After all, it wasn't easy for an expert at Emperor Gu's level to fall. Every martialist who could become Emperor Gu had a great opportunity and countless trump cards to protect themselves. The two Sunfire Hall elders had underestimated Chu Fengmian at the beginning. They hadn't expected Chu Fengmian to have such strength. They hadn't even used all their trump cards before they were subdued by Chu Fengmian. However, Chu Fengmian hadn't used all his trump cards either. Even if the two Sunfire Hall elders had used all their trump cards, they still wouldn't be a match for Chu Fengmian. Luo Kang sat on the ground and circulated his cultivation technique to refine the essence blood of the Sunfire Hall elder. The power in his body was rising steadily. After all, this was Emperor Gu's power. Even if Luo Kang could only devour 1/10 of it, or even less, it was still a great opportunity. The aura in his body suddenly soared. In an instant, a thunderous roar resounded between heaven and earth. The moment the thunderous roar resounded, the power in Luo Kang's body seemed to have reached its limit. It's about to undergo tribulation. Chu Fengmian raised his head and looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky. He knew that this was the sign of an Emperor Realm Master's breakthrough and was about to undergo tribulation. The Emperor Realm was called a tribulation because every time an Emperor Realm Master made a breakthrough, it would attract tribulation lightning. In history, there were many emperors who died under tribulation lightning. Seeing the tribulation lightning, Luo Kang woke up and no longer dared to continue cultivating. Instead, he prepared to deal with the tribulation lightning. Don't worry. Continue cultivating. I'll help you resist this tribulation lightning. Chu Fengmian glanced at Luo Kang and said calmly. Hearing this, Luo Kang couldn't help but be taken aback. Resisting tribulation lightning for someone else was an extremely dangerous matter. This tribulation lightning also had a unique characteristic. If someone else resisted it, the power of the tribulation lightning would increase by several times or even dozens of times. Therefore, there were very few emperors who were willing to help others resist tribulation lightning. After all, no one was willing to put their life on the line. Even Emperor Gu might not be able to resist the tribulation lightning of a 6 tribulation emperor. Although Luo Kang was only a 3 tribulation true emperor, his true strength was not inferior to a 6 tribulation true emperor. The tribulation lightning he attracted was at the same level as a 6 tribulation true emperor. Now is a good time for you to cultivate. Devour the other Sunfire Hall elder and your cultivation will take another step forward. Chu Fengmian directly said after seeing Luo Kang's hesitation. He could see that Luo Kang's strength was advancing by leaps and bounds. If he was interrupted at this time, he would miss a great opportunity. Senior brother, be careful. Luo Kang no longer hesitated when he heard these words. After speaking to Chu Fengmian, he shut his eyes tightly. At the same time, he grabbed the other Sunflame Hall Elder and smashed him into a bloody mist with a palm strike. Then, he opened his mouth and devoured all of the bloody mist. His power continued to increase. Meanwhile, Chu Fengmian soared to the sky and directly appeared in front of the Tribulation Lightning. The Tribulation Lightning seemed to have sensed his existence. In the blink of an eye, the clouds above became 10 times denser. The power of the Tribulation Lightning also increased. Emperor Gu's Tribulation. Who is it that triggered Emperor Gu's Tribulation? Is someone about to break through to Emperor Gu in a mortal burial continent? Who is it? Chapter 1363. The Tribulation Lightning had no eyes. Any cultivator who got close to it would be in danger of being locked on by it. This was the Tribulation Lightning of Emperor Gu's level. Many geniuses had died under the Tribulation Lightning when they were the closest to Emperor Gu. Therefore, all the cultivators hid far away. No one dared to get close to it. No one noticed that a figure was standing under the Tribulation Lightning. Chu Fengmian stood under the Tribulation Lightning and looked at it. There was no trace of fear in his eyes. Instead, there was a hint of excitement. He slowly raised his head and spoke. Come on. Boom. The Tribulation Lightning seemed to be angered by Chu Fengmian's words. It immediately gathered spiritual energy and struck at Chu Fengmian with a pitch-black thunderbolt. The power of this thunderbolt was no less than a full blow from a 7 Tribulations Emperor Gu. Chu Fengmian, on the other hand, was unarmed. He ignored the thunderbolt completely and chose to charge at it with his physical body. Boom! The thunderbolt struck Chu Fengmian's body. A sense of numbness immediately invaded his body. At the same time, Chu Fengmian felt the Tribulation Lightning continuously entering his body. It was constantly destroying Chu Fengmian's body. However, the 129,600 blood and flesh crystals in Chu Fengmian's body were all activated and condensed together. No matter how the Tribulation Lightning struck, it couldn't leave a single mark on his body. Instead, under the tempering of the Tribulation Lightning, each blood and flesh crystal became more resilient. Lightning body tempering. It wasn't a mysterious move. Many body cultivators, and even most cultivators and Yao gods had tried it before. Lightning was formed from the power of heaven and earth. Although it was incomparably violent, once it was subdued and integrated into the body, it was enough to strengthen the physical body. However, lightning body tempering was mostly done by gathering all the lightning in the world and refining it. Throughout history, no one had ever dared to be so crazy as Chu Fengmian to refine his body under Emperor Gu's Tribulation Lightning. Emperor Gu's lightning tribulation was a lightning tribulation. Even if Emperor Gu gave it his all, he could still perish. But now, Chu Fengmian was resisting it with just his physical body without using his sword Dao. In the eyes of others, it was an incomparably crazy thing to do. Chu Fengmian, on the other hand, had a slight smile on his face from beginning to end. Continue. Come on. This tribulation thunder brought Chu Fengmian's body one step closer to the immortal real body. Now that Chu Fengmian had a half-step undying true body, the 129,600 blood and flesh crystals were one. Even the impact of the Tribulation Lightning couldn't damage Chu Fengmian's body. The lightning power that entered Chu Fengmian's body was completely devoured by the flesh and blood crystal in his body. Without the half-step undying true body, Chu Fengmian wouldn't have dared to take such a risk. After all, the Tribulation Lightning was so powerful that it could penetrate deep into every bloodline and every drop of essence blood. It was enough to destroy every drop of essence blood. Therefore, the sovereigns who died under the Tribulation Lightning would directly disappear without leaving behind any remains. However, Chu Fengmian's half-step undying true body had no essence blood or bloodline. There were only 129,600 blood and flesh crystals left. The Tribulation Lightning's power was useless against Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian stood under the Tribulation Lightning, withstanding dozens of strikes of Tribulation Lightning. His clothes were all torn, and he looked a little embarrassed. But if someone were to see this scene, there would be no injuries on his body. One could notice that there were no wounds on Chu Fengmian's body at all. His body no longer looked like flesh and blood. Instead, it was transforming into a crystalline jade-like color. When Chu Fengmian's body completely turned into jade, he would achieve a true immortal real body, just like the bronze heavenly demon. It's about time. Chu Fengmian raised his head. His body was now close to the limit after being refined by dozens of Tribulation Lightning strikes. No matter how many Tribulation Lightning strikes hit it, it couldn't make Chu Fengmian's body go any further. Normally, there were only 9 Tribulation Lightning strikes, but because Chu Fengmian was going through the tribulation for someone else, there were as many as 90. It was only half of the Tribulation Lightning strikes, but Chu Fengmian's eyes were already showing some impatience. Go back to where you came from. Sword out. Chu Fengmian suddenly moved his palm. The Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and the Titanic Godly Sword were both drawn out. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's Sword God Realm was activated to the extreme. Sword breaking the firmament. The power of the two swords was accumulated to the extreme. At this moment, they burst out at the same time and bombarded the Tribulation Lightning in the sky. Boom! 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 The power of the two swords hit the Tribulation Lightning and set off a roar. It seemed that there was a battle inside the Tribulation Lightning. Then, there was a loud bang. The Tribulation Lightning that had gathered in the sky shattered in an instant and vanished into thin air. Luokan had just finished devouring the 2 elders of Sunfire Hall. He looked up and saw this unbelievable scene. Chu Fengmian didn't only take the Tribulation Lightning head-on, he even destroyed half of it with one slash. Even the Tribulation Clouds were shattered. All of this was simply beyond his understanding. Everyone feared Emperor Gu's Tribulation Lightning, but Chu Fengmian destroyed it along with the clouds? Luo Kang's mouth was agape as he stared at Chu Fengmian's descending figure. What's going on? Emperor Gu's Tribulation Lightning? Why did it disappear halfway? In the Immortal Burial Continent, there were still many martial artists observing the Tribulation Cloud's every move. An ancient emperor who had just undergone a tribulation was at his weakest. This was the best time to kill him. Even a few 6 or 5 Tribulation True Emperors would take action at this time. Thus, normally, Emperor Gu would choose a safe place to undergo his tribulation under the protection of others. However, Immortal Burial Continent wasn't a safe place at all. It was extremely dangerous, so many cultivators and demon gods wanted to take advantage of it. They were surprised to see the sudden disappearance of the Tribulation Lightning. Then, they understood what happened. He must have died to the Tribulation Lightning. Sigh, it wasn't easy to reach Emperor Gu's level, but he didn't prepare properly. What a pity. Chapter 1364. Now that the Tribulation Lightning has disappeared, I wonder if there are any treasures left behind? Some cultivators were eager to go and take a look, but they were mercilessly interrupted by their companions. Everything will be destroyed under the Tribulation Lightning. It's useless even if you go. Don't waste your time. Why don't you go and look for a few more treasures? After saying that, the cultivator was dragged away by his companions. When the crowd saw the Tribulation Lightning disappear halfway, they were certain that Emperor Gu had fallen. As for the Tribulation Lightning being destroyed, even if they searched the entire world for Emperor Gu, they might not be able to find such a thing. Luokan looked at Chu Fengmian for a long time as if he was looking at a monster. He was speechless for a long time. Junior brother, don't you recognize me? Chu Fengmian looked at Luokang's expression and joked. Senior brother, who are you? Luokan looked at Chu Fengmian and asked in disbelief. I've seen eldest senior brother before, but he wasn't as monstrous as you back then. The Tribulation Lightning that destroyed Emperor Gu? What kind of strength is this? Luo Kang saw many unbelievable scenes from Chu Fengmian time and time again. In his opinion, Chu Fengmian was already a walking monster. However, because Luo Kang had seen Yunzun before, he could still accept it. However, the destructive tribulation lightning that he saw today was beyond his imagination. Chu Fengmian was only a quasi-emperor. How could a quasi-emperor be so powerful? He killed Emperor Gu and destroyed the tribulation lightning. There was nothing that Chu Fengmian couldn't do. It's just a fortuitous encounter. The world is so big. There might be more monstrous geniuses than me. Chu Fengmian smiled and said when he heard Luo Kang's words. He wasn't being arrogant. In this era, geniuses like Chu Fengmian were extremely rare. However, in the Middle Ages and the ancient past, there were many geniuses who had the ability to fight against Emperor Gu as quasi-emperors. There were even records of them killing Emperor Gu. In that era, the peerless Emperor Gu was not rare. The geniuses of the major forces all had the opportunity to challenge the peerless Emperor Gu. In each era, there were no less than 100 peerless emperors. However, in the current era, the martial Dao had declined, and the peerless Emperor Gu was already extremely rare. Occasionally, one would appear, and they were all extraordinary geniuses in the world. Moreover, the universe was vast, and it wasn't limited to just the Daluo star field. Outside of the Daluotian star field, there were many other star fields. In those star fields, there might be geniuses that surpassed Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's greatest reliance was his Dao heart, which was also his most dazzling talent. A Dao heart that had died once was definitely more tenacious than anyone else's Dao heart in this world. However, outside of the fallen Qing Huang and the artifact spirit of Sword King Hall, no one else knew about this secret. Chu Fengmian didn't dare to tell even his closest friends. Even celestial beings and immortal sovereigns yearned for this realm but couldn't reach it. If this were to be exposed, then those old geezers from unknown eras would give up everything and come out of seclusion to interrogate Chu Fengmian. After all, for those old antiques who were about to die, being able to be reborn was definitely their greatest desire. You're not bad either. I didn't expect you to break through 2 levels at once. Chu Fengmian glanced at Luo Kang and changed the topic. Right now, Luo Kang's aura was dozens of times stronger than before. He had reached the 5 Tribulation True Emperor realm. From a 3 Tribulation True Emperor to a 5 Tribulation True Emperor, his strength had increased by more than 10-fold. It's mainly because of the 2 Emperor Gu's blood essence that saved me dozens of years of cultivation. Luo Kang also gradually recovered from his shock. He said with a joyful expression on his face. He came to the immortal burial continent to try his luck and find a few treasures so that he could break through to the 4 Tribulation True Emperor realm. As for the 5 Tribulation True Emperor realm, it would take him dozens of years of hard work if he didn't have a heaven-shaking fortune. But this time, he directly devoured the blood essence of 2 Emperor Gus. This was a great opportunity that he had been yearning for, allowing him to break through to the 5 Tribulation True Emperor realm. When he was a 3 Tribulation True Emperor, Luo Kang already had the strength of a 6 Tribulation True Emperor. Now that he had broken through, it would be easy for him to reach the top 100 of the All-Heaven Genius ranking. At the very least, he wouldn't be any weaker than the Princess of the Sea. However, the Princess of the Sea was only a quasi-emperor. With her talent and the resources behind her, it would be a piece of cake for her to reach the Emperor realm. However, Chu Fengmian guessed that the Princess of the Sea was also trying to break through to the peerless Emperor Gu realm. Otherwise, she wouldn't have suppressed her cultivation to the quasi-emperor realm. Speaking of the Princess of the Sea, Chu Fengmian looked at the trembling Riflame young master who was kneeling on the ground. The current Riflame young master didn't have the arrogant and confident look from before. He was kneeling on the ground and trembling like a slave. He looked at Chu Fengmian with fear in his eyes. After all, Riflame young master didn't personally witness Chu Fengmian suppressing the 2 Emperor Gu of the Riflame Hall, so he wasn't that afraid of Chu Fengmian. But just now, he saw Chu Fengmian destroy the tribulation cloud with his own eyes. This scene almost scared him silly. Fortunately, he was a 6 Tribulation True Emperor, so he wasn't scared to death. But now, he was trembling when he looked at Chu Fengmian. Moreover, the two elders of the Riflame Hall were directly slapped to death by Luo Kong in front of him. He didn't want to be the third one. Woo 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 woo. Seeing Chu Fengmian looking at him, Riflame young master hurriedly wanted to speak, but his mouth was already sealed. He could only make muffled sounds. Oh? You have something to say? Chu Fengmian saw this scene and walked to the side of Riflame young master. He pointed his finger and released some of the seals on Riflame young master's body, allowing him to speak. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I know the location of a treasure trove in the Immoral Burial Continent. If you don't kill me, I can bring you there. Riflame young master hurriedly spoke when he felt that he could speak again. He was afraid that Chu Fengmian would directly kill him, so he didn't want to waste any more time. You won't gain anything from killing me. Why don't you use my life to exchange for a treasure trove? A treasure trove? Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he looked at Riflame young master and said calmly. There are treasures everywhere in the Immoral Burial Continent. A treasure trove is nothing. Chapter 1365. A treasure trove? The Immoral Burial Continent could be said to be a place filled with treasures. If one was lucky, one could step on a treasure trove while walking. Chu Fengmian was not interested after hearing young Master Rian's words. No, no, no. It's not an ordinary treasure trove. It's an ancient land. It's at least a 7-colored treasure trove. Young Master Rian hurriedly said after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. If you don't believe me, I have a map here that records the location of the treasure trove. 7-colored treasure trove? Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with interest after hearing this. The treasures of the Immoral Burial Continent were unique. Every treasure trove would emit a multicolored light when it was opened. The more the multicolored light there was, the higher the grade of the treasure trove. Generally, a treasure trove that emitted a multicolored light was called a 1-colored treasure trove. If there were 2 multicolored light, it would be a 2-colored treasure trove. Although there were countless treasures in the Immoral Burial Continent, most of them were 1-colored and 2-colored treasures. Of course, a treasure trove of this grade was considered a great opportunity for an ordinary emperor. As for 3-colored and 4-colored treasures, it wasn't easy to find them. As for treasures above 5-colored, even Emperor Gu would have a hard time finding them. If they were opened, even Emperor Gu would fight for them. The biggest treasure trove that had been opened in the Immoral Burial Continent was a 9-colored treasure trove. It was the treasure trove of an ancient force. That force had given birth to dozens of heavenly beings. Of course, there were very few 9-colored treasures in the records of the Immoral Burial Continent. According to the records, there were only 3 9-colored treasures. Now, young Master Rian actually knew the location of a 7-colored treasure trove. A 7-colored treasure trove was something that countless Emperor Gu would fight for. Give me the map. Chu Fengmian thought for a while and said to young Master Rian. Young Master Rian's expression was still hesitant. Chu Fengmian said impatiently. Hurry up. Hearing this, young Master Riflame slowly took out a scroll from his spatial ring. The scroll was made entirely of dragon skin and would last for tens of millions of years. When young Master Riflame took it out, there was a pained expression in his eyes. He originally wanted to keep such a treasure for himself. He had called the 2 Sunflame Hall elders over not only to deal with Chu Fengmian and Elder Sword Bone, but also to open the treasure. However, for the sake of his life right now, the Riflame young master had no other choice but to take out the treasure map. Chu Fengmian took the treasure map and poured spiritual energy into it. The treasure map opened in front of Chu Fengmian and Luo Kong. The location marked on the treasure map should be near the center of the Immoral Burial Continent. The closer one was to the center of the Immoral Burial Continent, the higher the quality of the treasures one would find. Judging from this treasure map should be real. In the innermost part of the scroll, there was an ancient piece of jade with strange patterns on it. These runes definitely did not belong to the current era. Instead, they came from an extremely ancient era. This jade stone is the key to the treasure. The Riflame young master looked at Chu Fengmian and said hastily, "I have already given you the treasure map. As long as you let me go, I will not go against you in the future." Noisy! Luo Kong snorted coldly and turned his head to Chu Fengmian. "Senior brother, is there a trick in this?" The Riflame young master was not an upright person. On the contrary, he was vengeful and extremely sinister. After suffering such a huge loss today, even if he was scared out of his wits, Luo Kong was not sure if the treasure map given by the Riflame young master was real or not. The treasure map should be real. Chu Fengmian took a glance at the treasure map and more or less confirmed that the treasure map was real. Although the treasure map before him was made of dragon skin, it was already somewhat worn out. It was probably something left behind from hundreds of thousands or even millions of years ago. Such an ancient item should not be fake. "Senior brother, are you going to let him go?" Luo Kong glanced at the Riflame young master and asked hesitantly. "Let the tiger return to the mountain. Although this person is trash, it will be troublesome if his father, the Riflame Palace Master, were to find out." The corners of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled up as he looked at the Riflame young master. "I need to verify the authenticity of this treasure map." "How are you going to verify it?" The Riflame young master seemed to have seen some hope after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. "Let's use your life to verify it." Chu Fengmian suddenly extended his hand and grabbed the Riflame young master. With a tap of his finger, a golden light flew out from the Riflame young master's head. The golden light was the Riflame young master's memory. With a thought, the memory appeared in Chu Fengmian's mind. Soon, the corners of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a smile. Indeed, this Riflame young master wasn't such an honest person. The treasure map he gave Chu Fengmian was real. However, the jade stone in the treasure map was fake. As long as Chu Fengmian held the jade stone and wanted to open the treasure, not only would he not be able to obtain it, but he would also be punished by the restrictions on the treasure. One must know that these treasures were all left behind from the ancient era. Many of them had been jointly set up by heavenly beings. Even though they had been there for countless years and their might had been reduced to less than 100%, they were still enough to kill Emperor Gu. Many Emperor Gus in the Immortal Burial Continent had died after triggering the restrictions on their treasures. Not only did the Riflame young master want to live, but he also wanted to lure Chu Fengmian into throwing his life away. Unfortunately, none of this could escape Chu Fengmian's eyes. The Riflame young master's memory was extracted and he had died on the spot. He was now a dead man lying on the ground. Chu Fengmian made a grabbing motion and grabbed an empty ring from the Riflame young master's body. He opened the empty ring and carefully searched through it. Only then did he discover that there was another jade stone within the empty ring. This jade stone was the true key to opening the treasure. The one he had deliberately given to Chu Fengmian was only an imitation. Although it was an imitation, the jade stone in Chu Fengmian's hand was also incomparably ancient. If it were someone else, they might not be able to distinguish it. There are quite a lot of good things in the Riflame young master's empty ring. Chu Fengmian observed for a moment. There were at least several billion great luo pellets in the Riflame young master's empty ring. It would appear that, as the young master of the Riflame Hall, this person was truly wealthy. As for the remaining two Riflame Hall elders, there were also quite a lot of wealth in their empty rings. With a rough calculation, Chu Fengmian had obtained at least 10 billion great luo pellets in one go. "Senior brother, you've obtained another great harvest this time." Chapter 1366. Chu Fengmian had killed Elder Sword Bone and obtained a large amount of wealth from him. Now, he had killed a group of people from Rian Palace. Rian Palace was considered one of the wealthiest forces in the Avalon of 5 elements because of their alchemy skills. This was another large amount of wealth. It could be said that Chu Fengmian's trip to the Immortal Burial Continent had earned him a lot even before he obtained any treasures. This is nothing. The real reward is still this treasure map. Chu Fengmian took out the treasure map and observed its location. Chu Fengmian was currently at the edge of the Immortal Burial Continent. Dangers lurked everywhere in the Immortal Burial Continent. Hence, most of the martial artists and demon gods did not dare to fly in the sky. Instead, they chose to walk on land. If they flew in the sky, they might be attacked by some ferocious beasts. Many of these ferocious beasts were existences that even Emperor Gu would find difficult to deal with. Similarly, Chu Fengmian did not dare to fly recklessly. If they walked at the speed of light, they should be able to reach the location of the treasure map within 3 to 4 days. The 7-color treasure trove was definitely a treasure trove that countless ancient emperors would go crazy for. The 7-colored treasure trove was the best treasure trove that had appeared in the Immortal Burial Continent many times. Chu Fengmian was determined to obtain the rainbow treasure. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had obtained the treasure map and the key. He had a unique advantage. Even if he had to compete with others, Chu Fengmian was not afraid. Let's go to the center of the Immortal Burial Continent, Chu Fengmian said to Luo Kang beside him. At the same time, he glanced at the corpse of Rian Young Master on the ground. He pointed his finger and a ball of flame burned, incinerating Rian Young Master's corpse. Under the pure yang heavenly fire, there was nothing left of Rian Young Master's corpse. Everything was incinerated and destroyed. All right. Senior brother, follow me. I know some safe routes to avoid some ferocious beasts. Although this is the periphery of the Immortal Burial Continent, there are still many ferocious beasts residing here. This wasn't the first time Luo Kang had come to the Immortal Burial Continent. He had the previous experience, so he was much more familiar with the Immortal Burial Continent than Chu Fengmian. He walked in front to lead the way, while Chu Fengmian followed behind. The Immortal Burial Continent was filled with dense jungles. Some of the giant trees were 1,000 meters tall. Such dense jungles were enough to hide many huge beasts. These ferocious beasts fed on blood and qi. Once a martial artist or fey god approached, they would suddenly attack. Luo Kang carefully led the way in front. Every time he walked, he would observe his surroundings. He was extremely cautious. The closer one got to the interior of the Immortal Burial Continent, the higher the possibility of encountering danger. It was said that there were even some ferocious beasts in the Immortal Burial Continent that could fight a celestial realm expert. Therefore, even a 9-tribulation ancient emperor or a half-step heavenly being would have to be careful in the Immortal Burial Continent, not daring to act recklessly. As he walked through the Immortal Burial Continent, Chu Fengmian could hear the roars of beasts from time to time, as well as waves of spiritual energy fluctuations. Apparently, some martial artists and demonic immortals had been captured by these beasts and started fighting. Every time the Immortal Burial Continent opened, more than hundreds of thousands of martial artists and demonic immortals would die in it. However, the place was filled with opportunities and countless martial artists and demonic immortals would fight to come. Boom! Chu Fengmian had been walking for about 4 hours when the sound of a bell suddenly resounded in front of him. A treasure has appeared. Luo Kang was more experienced than Chu Fengmian. He immediately understood that a treasure had appeared. I wonder what level of treasure it is. Chu Fengmian was also curious. He looked up at the sky. When the bell stopped ringing, rays of multicolored light lit up in the sky. A total of 3 rays of multicolored light lit up at the same time. 3-colored treasure. Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang looked at each other with excitement in their eyes. 3-colored treasure was already considered a good treasure among the treasures that had appeared in the Immortal Burial Continent. The treasures that appeared would be of great use to Emperor Gu. We're in luck. The treasure is very close to us. Luo Kang looked at the 3-colored light and said. Directly below the tricolored light was the location of the treasure. Senior brother, let's hurry over. The multicolored light that appeared when the treasure was opened could be seen from dozens of miles away. Warriors and demon gods would be attracted by it. Only the first to arrive would be qualified to obtain the treasure. Let's go. Chu Fengmian nodded. This was also his first time coming to the Immortal Burial Continent. This time, his luck was pretty good. This treasure was very close to Chu Fengmian. It was only a few kilometers away, so he could rush there very quickly. Chu Fengmian used the phantom body technique and pushed his speed to the maximum. In the immortal burial continent, one couldn't fly rashly. Therefore, the phantom body technique was very important. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian was very familiar with the phantom body technique. When he used it, his figure was like a phantom, shuttling through the forest. Luo Kang seemed to be prepared. He had learned a good phantom body technique. His speed was also very fast. The two of them quickly walked towards the direction of the three-colored light. In less than a minute, Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang arrived at the place where the tricolored light was located. Right below the tricolored light was a golden spear. The golden spear was inserted into the ground. It should be a treasure that had been hidden underground all this time. This time, it suddenly appeared. Good stuff. This golden spear is a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. It's at least a heaven-grade spiritual weapon from the Middle Ages. It's much more powerful than the ones in our era. Even Emperor Gu didn't have such a good spiritual weapon. Luo Kang exclaimed when he saw the golden spear. Although he had 4 heaven-grade spiritual weapons now, none of them were comparable to the golden spear in front of him. This golden spear was more powerful than 2 ordinary heaven-grade spiritual weapons. Senior brother, we're in luck. No one has come yet. As long as we break the restriction on the golden spear, it'll be ours. Luo Kang looked around. When he didn't see anyone, his face showed some joy. They had been in the immortal burial continent for less than 4 hours. They had encountered a treasure, and it was a 3-colored treasure. They were absolutely lucky. I'll take this golden spear now. Chu Fengmian took a step forward and came to the side of the golden spear. He circulated his spiritual power and directly grabbed the golden spear. Chu Fengmian didn't lack spiritual weapons now. However, this golden spear was very valuable. It could be exchanged for a lot of wealth. Of course, Chu Fengmian wouldn't let it go. Chapter 1367. In the immortal burial continent, any treasure that appeared, whether it was a spiritual weapon, spiritual elixir, cave mansion, etc., would have a unique restriction on it. As long as it was a treasure that appeared in the immortal burial continent, there would be no exception. These restrictions varied in strength and had almost no relation to the level of the treasure. Some of the 1-colored treasures had restrictions that even the ancient emperor would find difficult to break. Some 5-color and 6-color treasures had restrictions that even a child who had just started cultivating could easily break. There was no pattern. Therefore, it was also a matter of luck to obtain the treasure. If one was unlucky, even if the treasure appeared in front of him, he would not be able to break the restriction and obtain the treasure. It was said that when the immortal burial continent opened again, an 8-color ancient cave mansion appeared on the first day. However, for a whole month, no expert could break the restriction on it. At that time, it was said that even the hidden old antiques of the major forces, and even the Almighty of the celestial realm, were unable to open the ancient cave mansion. In the end, they could only watch the ancient cave mansion leave with the immortal burial continent. Chu Fengmian's luck was not bad. The moment the restriction appeared, Chu Fengmian discovered that even an ordinary sovereign realm expert could break it. Chu Fengmian's current strength was enough to kill the 7 Tribulation Emperor Gu. This restriction was not worth mentioning in front of Chu Fengmian. He slightly circulated his spiritual energy and grabbed the golden spear. The restriction on the golden spear was shattered. At the same time, the golden spear was caught in Chu Fengmian's hand. Golden tribute spear? The moment Chu Fengmian held the golden spear in his hand, a name suddenly appeared in his mind. Apparently, it was the name of the golden spear. At the same time, under the name, there was a record of the former owner of the golden spear, the golden tribute Emperor Gu. 50,000 years ago, an 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu had a life and death battle with someone in the immortal burial continent. In the end, he died in the immortal burial continent, and the golden spear was left behind. The former weapon of the 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu. Not bad. A treasure has appeared. Look, it's a spiritual weapon. Heaven-grade spiritual artifact. A heaven-grade spiritual artifact from the ancient era. I've struck gold this time. Suddenly, 3 figures came out of the forest in front of Chu Fengmian. They were all young men in their 20s and wore blue robes. Their eyes were fixated on the shiny golden spear in Chu Fengmian's hand. A spirit treasure at the level of a tricolor treasure was definitely something that even the ancient emperor would want to fight for. The 3 young men stared at the golden spear for a long time. Suddenly, their eyes fell on Chu Fengmian. The greed in their eyes was self-evident. "Kid, put down the treasure and scram." The man in the lead glanced at Chu Fengmian and said arrogantly, "What do the 3 of you mean?" Seeing that someone had arrived, Luo Kang also took a step forward, sized up the 3 of them, and coldly said, "Disciples of the Blue Sea capital, have you also come to rob?" In the immortal burial continent, there were countless battles over treasures. The 3 people in front of him were wearing blue robes. From their robes, they were clearly disciples of Blue Sea City. "Humph! Our Blue Sea Academy disciples are doing things. It's none of your business. Put down the treasure and scram. I can spare your lives." When a Blue Sea City disciple saw Luo Kang arrive, his arrogance didn't diminish in the slightest. No need to waste words with them. They're just a puny quasi-emperor and a 5 tribulation true emperor. Just kill them and take the treasure. Another disciple sized up Chu Fengmian, and Luo Kang's cultivation and murderous intent surged. "Die!" All of a sudden, the vast Sea City disciple attacked, unleashing a palm strike toward Chu Fengmian in a completely unreasonable manner. The outside world didn't know anything that happened in the immortal burial continent. Therefore, they could kill whoever they wanted in here. When they went out, they wouldn't be noticed and they wouldn't be taken revenge. This disciple saw that Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang's cultivation wasn't high and directly attacked. They were all 6 tribulation true emperors, so dealing with Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang was a piece of cake. "Die!" The other 2 didn't hesitate and suddenly attacked. Their target was Luo Kang. They took out their spirit treasures and immediately attacked. They wanted to end this quickly. Courting death? Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. He didn't want to kill, but these Blue Sea disciples didn't care about the consequences. In the outside world, the disciples of the big powers would be a bit wary and wouldn't kill. However, in the immortal burial continent, killing people would not be discovered, and no one would seek revenge. Therefore, the martial artists and Yao gods who came to the immortal burial continent would kill without a word. Chu Fengmian had only heard of it before, but now, he saw it with his own eyes. "Die, brat!" The Blue Sea disciple took a step forward and condensed spirit energy in his palm before unleashing a palm strike at Chu Fengmian. Countless palm strikes rained down on Chu Fengmian's body, leaving him with no way to dodge. This was a merciless killing move. "You dare to kill and rob with such little strength?" Chu Fengmian sneered with disdain. In his eyes, a 6 tribulation true emperor like Luo Kang wasn't even comparable to an ant when he was a 3 tribulation true emperor. Chu Fengmian's palm was filled with spiritual power, and it shattered all the palm prints in the sky. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's palm landed on the Sanhai disciple's chest, shattering his chest and destroying his body. You dare to destroy my body? Brat, you're finished. I'll tear you to pieces and extract your soul to torture you day and night." The Blue Sea City disciple whose body had been shattered by Chu Fengmian roared loudly. Blue light surged from his body as he used his trump card. Under the blue light, the power of the Blue Ocean City disciple increased by 3 to 4 times. He directly aimed at Chu Fengmian and launched another attack. "Ignorant fool!" Impatience flashed through Chu Fengmian's eyes. He had already been lenient with that palm strike just now. If these Blue Sea City disciples were to back off, then Chu Fengmian wouldn't bother arguing with them. But since they dared to attack, Chu Fengmian didn't want to give them another chance. Not to mention 3 to 4 times, even if this Blue Sea disciple was 40 times stronger, Chu Fengmian could still kill him as easily as crushing an ant. "Die!" Chapter 1368. This blue ocean disciple was deader than dead after falling into the sky-devouring secret art. Chu Fengmian grasped at the sky-devouring secret technique, and an empty ring fell into his hand. Although the wealth of the Canhai disciples wasn't much, it was still meat, so Chu Fengmian still accepted it with a smile. As for the other two disciples, they were also killed by Luo Kang. They weren't as strong as Luo Kang when he was a 3 tribulation true emperor. Moreover, Luo Kang was now a 5 tribulation true emperor. Killing them was as easy as pie. Senior apprentice brother, these 3 people have unique seals on their bodies. They should have been planted by a blue ocean expert. Now that the 3 of them are dead, the blue ocean expert should be weaker. Luo Kang carefully observed. When the 3 died, there was a blue light that flew away from their bodies. Clearly, they were passing the news to others. It is indeed impossible to divine the situation inside the immortal burial continent from outside. However, it is possible to divine the situation inside the immortal burial continent. The restrictions on the celestial burial continent could only block people from the outside world. They couldn't deduce the situation inside the celestial burial continent. However, if they were both in the immortal burial continent, they could calculate each other's strength. So what? Chu Fengmian revealed a hint of murderous intent. In any case, the outside world won't know if I kill someone in the immortal burial continent. If I kill someone, then so be it. I'll kill whoever comes. Chu Fengmian's eyes surged with murderous intent. He finally understood the rules of the continent. Here, sympathy was the only way to die. If anyone dared to cause trouble, Chu Fengmian only had 2 words: kill. All right. Given senior brother's strength, the ancient emperor of the Canhai capital would only be here to deliver senior brother's wealth. Luo Kang laughed after hearing Chu Fengmian. There are a lot of good things inside these 2 blue ocean disciples' spatial rings. It seems like many treasures have been opened this time. Let's continue to search for more treasures along the way. Okay, let's keep searching. Chu Fengmian was in a good mood after taking the golden spear. He didn't really need spiritual treasures. He mainly needed some sacred medicines or even ancient sacred medicines or some sword techniques. These things could greatly improve his strength. Anything was possible in the opening of the immortal burial continent. Chu Fengmian wanted to try his luck. With their current strength, they could directly take the majority of the treasures. Asterisk whoosh whoosh. Asterisk Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang continued to move through the forest towards the center of the continent. A few hundred kilometers away, in a valley, a group of martialists surrounded the valley and didn't allow anyone to enter. At the same time, 2 middle-aged men were standing inside the valley, working together to collect the treasures. This was a 5-colored treasure. 5 rays of light in the sky attracted a large number of martial artists and demonic gods. However, these warriors and fey gods who wanted to fight for the treasure were all killed by the warriors guarding outside the valley. This group of martial artists was extremely overbearing. They directly occupied the valley, not allowing anyone to enter and disturb the collection of the treasures. One of the 2 middle-aged men was wearing a blue robe. It was the uniform of a blue ocean city. However, there were a few purple lines on his blue robe, showing that he was extremely noble. His body was constantly circulating the law of heaven and earth, which represented his identity. He was Emperor Gu. The middle-aged man opposite him was also circulating the same law of heaven and earth. In fact, he was even more powerful than this man. However, this man was wearing a red robe, which made him look slightly different. He seemed to be from a different force. The 2 of them worked together to dissolve the 5-colored treasure in the valley. In a short while, the restriction on the 5-colored treasure was destroyed by the 2 of them. As the restriction disappeared, a brocaded cloth-like object appeared inside. On the brocade cloth, one could vaguely see the handwriting on it. Jiuxian? Brother Shuexian, this is good stuff. It's the Jiuxian immortal art of the Jiuxian celestial sovereign. The blue-clothed Emperor Gu looked at the brocade cloth and said happily. Jiuxian immortal art? The Emperor Gu, who was called Brother Shuexian, vaguely resembled young Master Shui. If Chu Fengmian was here, he would definitely be able to tell that Brother Shueishan was young Master Shue's father, Emperor Gu of the Avalon of Five Elements. The ancient emperor of the divine blood ancient god took the cloth and glanced at it. The excitement in his eyes suddenly dimmed. It's a pity that it's only a part of the 9 mystic immortal art. It's only a third of the 9 mystic immortal art. The real 9 mystic immortal art surpasses all other martial skills and is at the immortal grade. If we can master it, Brother Shui Xian, given our strength, we can even kill a 9 tribulation ancient emperor. Unfortunately, this is only a part of it. Brother Shueishan, don't be upset. Emperor Gu said with a smile. This time, 2 treasures related to the 9 mystic celestial venerable have appeared in the immortal burial continent. This time, the 9 mystic celestial venerable's cave abode is most likely going to open. Since we have obtained a part of the Jioshan immortal art, it means that we are fated to be with the 9 mystic celestial venerable. Perhaps, not only can we obtain the Jioshan immortal art, we can also obtain the inheritance of the 9 mystic celestial venerable. Emperor Gu stopped in the middle of his words. His face darkened. Brother Shui Xian, what happened? Blood God Emperor Gu asked curiously. It's not a big deal. A few disciples of the vast ocean city have been killed. Emperor Gu's face was cold. The murderous intent in his eyes was chilling. Someone actually dares to kill the disciples of the vast ocean city in the immortal burial continent. No matter who it is, they must die. Brother Shui Xian, don't be angry. It's just a few martial artists. Let's work together and find out who killed them. Let's kill them and take revenge for the disciples of the vast ocean city. Blood God Emperor Gu said casually. Thank you, Brother Shueishan. Emperor Gu said. He circulated his spiritual energy and formed a water mirror in front of him. At the same time, the ancient emperor of the blood god made his move as well. As the power of the 2 poured into the water mirror, it became clearer and clearer. It showed the scene of Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang killing the 3 Tsunghai disciples. It's him? Chapter 1369. Brother Blood God, do you know this person? Emperor Gu asked curiously. This was the first time he had seen Blood God Emperor Gu so angry. That's right. Brother Shui Xian, do you know that my son died in the Nether Ghost realm? Blood God Emperor Gu calmed his anger and said. I know a thing or two. Emperor Gu nodded. Almost all the Emperor Gu in the Daluo star field knew about this matter. The blood god ancient emperor only had one son, young noble blood. Everyone knew how much he doted on young noble blood. Many of the ancient emperors were shocked when they heard that someone had dared to kill young noble blood. Moreover, it was said that he was killed by a junior. It's this little bastard that killed my son. Blood god Emperor Gu stared at Chu Fengmian, who was among the 2 figures. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Blood Noble was the only son of Blood God Emperor Gu. He had spent a lot of effort to nurture Blood Noble. However, he never expected that Blood Noble would die in Chu Fengmian's hands in the Nether Ghost realm. Blood God Emperor Gu had always wanted to find an opportunity to kill Chu Fengmian. However, Chu Fengmian had become a disciple of the Holy Dragon sect in the Sacred Dragon secret realm. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't rush into the Sacred Dragon secret realm to kill Chu Fengmian. I never thought that this little bastard would come to the immortal burial continent. Very well, I want him to die in the immortal burial continent and be buried with my son. The killing intent in Blood God Emperor Gu's eyes reached its peak. He faced the water mirror and waved his hand. Spiritual energy surged into the water mirror. The scene in the water mirror suddenly changed. He wanted to use Chu Fengmian's aura to deduce his location and kill him. However, what appeared in the water mirror was a fog. It was like chaos, so he couldn't see clearly. You can't deduce it? How is that possible? How can a mere quasi-emperor not deduce it? Seeing this, Blood God Emperor Gu's eyes flashed with anger. He couldn't wait to find out where Chu Fengmian was and kill him as soon as possible. However, the scene in the water mirror was a slap to his face. No matter how hard the blood god Emperor Gu tried, the image in the water mirror remained blurry. You can't divine it. Emperor Gu, Shui Xian, who was standing at the side, was a little surprised. Brother Shueishan, let me help you. Emperor Gu took a step forward and channeled his spiritual energy into the mirror. However, as he channeled his spiritual energy into the mirror, the image in the mirror did not become real. Instead, it became more and more illusory. How is this possible? Seeing this result, Emperor Gu's expression changed greatly. That little asshole must have something on him that can obscure the heavenly fortune, preventing us from deducing his identity. Blood God Emperor Gu tried a few more times and finally gave up. His expression was extremely cold and the murderous intent in his eyes did not diminish. The immoral burial continent is only so big. That little asshole must be here for the treasure. Let's go and find him. I don't believe that we can't catch him. Little asshole. I will definitely catch you and tear you to pieces. Blood God Emperor Gu roared crazily. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. In a forest in the immoral burial continent, Chu Fengmian suddenly stopped in his tracks. He also sensed that someone was trying to deduce his and Luo Kang's whereabouts. However, Chu Fengmian did not expect that among the people trying to deduce, there was one whose aura was extremely familiar to Chu Fengmian. It was Blood God Emperor Gu. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Senior brother, Blood God Emperor Gu is an 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu. He's not easy to deal with. Even if a few Elder Sword Bones join forces, they might not be a match for Blood God Emperor Gu. When Luo Kang heard the name Blood God Emperor Gu, he was also extremely fearful. He knew about the grudge between Chu Fengmian and Blood God Emperor Gu. Chu Fengmian had killed Blood God Emperor Gu's only son. Blood God Emperor Gu would definitely not let Chu Fengmian go. As long as Blood God Emperor Gu met Chu Fengmian, he would definitely kill Chu Fengmian at all costs. Third senior sister is said to have come to the immoral burial continent. However, I can't sense her aura. Otherwise, if we join forces with her, we might be able to kill Blood God Emperor Gu. Luo Kang said slowly. Senior brother, what do you plan to do now? Leave the immoral burial continent first? Luo Kang felt his scalp tingle at the thought of Blood God Emperor Gu being in the immoral burial continent. He was an 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu. When Blood God Emperor Gu became famous, Elder Sword Bone was still a child. It could be said that he was one of the most ancient Emperor Gu in the Avalon of 5 elements. Luo Kang felt a little fearful at the thought of being his enemy. No need. Chu Fengmian shook his head. He had obtained the treasure map of the rainbow treasure from young Master Rian. Chu Fengmian would definitely not be willing to leave now. If he could obtain the opportunities within the rainbow treasure, it might be enough for Chu Fengmian to improve his strength and reach a higher realm. Chu Fengmian would definitely not give up. Moreover, Blood God Emperor Gu couldn't calculate Chu Fengmian's whereabouts even if he wanted to. Blood God Emperor Gu can't calculate our whereabouts. The immoral burial continent is so big. Let him find us slowly. Chu Fengmian sneered. Let's continue to the center of the immoral burial continent. Strength. What Chu Fengmian lacked was strength. If Chu Fengmian's strength could improve further, he could kill Blood God Emperor Gu. Although Chu Fengmian's strength was still a far cry from the Blood God Ancient Emperors, Chu Fengmian's potential was astounding. Now that he had obtained a great opportunity in the immoral burial continent, he might be able to put up a fight against the Blood God Ancient Emperor. Alright, since senior brother isn't afraid, why should I be? Luo Kang laughed heartily after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. He wasn't a timid person. Although Blood God Emperor Gu was powerful, he wasn't afraid. How could one become an expert if they were afraid their whole life? The two of them continued to move towards the center of the immoral burial continent. Along the way, they encountered a few more treasures. However, they were all 1-color and 2-color treasures. Chu Fengmian obtained a small piece of dragon bone. It was useful for his bloodline and was refined by Chu Fengmian. Luo Kang also obtained some treasures. The immortal burial continent was really full of treasures. In just a day, the two of them found 7 to 8 treasures. They found another one-color treasure. Luo Kang obtained a water Qilin wood. It was a crystallization of the 5 elements. He refined it and his strength improved again. If this continues, my strength will increase by 1 level when the immortal burial continent closes. Chapter 1370. The immortal burial continent was definitely the best place to gain experience. There were treasures everywhere and countless experts would fight each other to the death. If he could train here for a year, he was confident that he could challenge Emperor Gu. How could there be such a good thing? If the immortal burial continent was always open, there wouldn't be so many treasures. They would have all been taken away by others. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but smile after hearing Luo Kang's words. The immortal burial continent only opened once every few hundred years. Each time it opened, it would stay open for a month. Because of this, the treasures of the immortal burial continent were continuously passed down. No matter how many experts and demon gods entered the continent, the amount of treasures they could obtain was just a drop in the ocean compared to the treasures in the immortal burial continent. If the immortal burial continent had been open all the time, no matter how many treasures there were, they would have all been taken away. It's a pity that I didn't find any treasures of a higher level. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. 1-color and 2-color treasures were extremely beneficial for ordinary true emperors. However, the effects were limited for Chu Fengmian. Although Chu Fengmian was only a quasi-emperor, his fortuitous encounters were better than many ancient emperors. Only the treasures that the ancient emperors would fight for could bring Chu Fengmian great benefits. Just as Chu Fengmian was mumbling to himself, the sound of a bell rang out from a nearby valley. The sound of the bell signified the appearance of treasures. What level? Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang hurriedly raised their heads and looked at the rays of light in the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, it's actually a 5-colored treasure trove. A 5-colored treasure trove. Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang became excited when they saw the multicolored lights appear. 5-colored treasures were extremely rare in the immortal burial continent. Every time the immortal burial continent appeared, only a dozen or so 5-colored treasures would appear. Although it sounded like a lot, there were hundreds of thousands of experts and demon gods in the immortal burial continent. Being able to find a 5-color treasure was already extremely lucky. Let's go! The 5-color treasure was enough to attract countless warriors and demon immortals. Even Emperor Gu would go crazy over it and come fight for it. Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang's figures flickered as they passed through the forest and ran in the direction of the 5-colored treasure. In just a few minutes, a valley appeared before Chu Fengmian's eyes. A large number of martial artists and demon immortals had already gathered outside the valley. At present, many of the warriors and demon gods had already started fighting. At a glance, there were thousands of people gathered. The attractiveness of a 5-colored treasure is indeed huge. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but ask when he saw the thousands of martial artists and Yao gods gathered together. Senior brother, this is a good opportunity. Since there are so many people here, it means that this treasure has not been taken away yet. We still have a chance. Luo Kang said after sizing him up. Senior brother, look. It seems like the people from the Avalon of 5 Elements are controlling this treasure. Chu Fengmian looked in the direction that Luo Kang was pointing at. There seemed to be 2 groups of people outside the valley. One group of people was all disciples of the Avalon of 5 Elements, dressed in their uniforms. They held the initiative in the valley, which meant that they had taken over the valley. On the other hand, their enemies were from all kinds of forces. They were probably martial artists and demon immortals who had come to the immortal burial continent to try their luck. Now, they had joined forces to fight for the 5-colored treasure. Under normal circumstances, this group of people would never dare to make an enemy out of a force like the Avalon of 5 Elements. However, this was the immortal burial continent. People died in pursuit of wealth and birds died in pursuit of food. Those who dared to come to the immortal burial continent were all people who were prepared to die. There was no reason for them to give up when the five-colored treasure was right in front of them. Kill! Charge in! This treasure belongs to us. We can't let the people from the Avalon of Five Elements monopolize it. A young man, who seemed to be the leader of these martial artists and demon immortals, loudly ordered the group of martial artists to charge into the valley again and again. It's the genius of Qilin Mountain, Lin Yi. Luo Khan couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this young man. This person is a famous genius from Qilin Mountain. It's said that he's the holy son of Qilin Mountain. He's ranked 33rd on the Great Luo Genius ranking and has the ability to fight against Emperor Gu. This person's strength is average, but he's eloquent and can bewitch people. He's extremely difficult to deal with. Senior, you have to be careful. Oh? Chu Fengmian followed the gaze. Lin Yi was extremely handsome. His every move seemed to be able to win people's favor. He was standing behind the crowd and wasn't doing anything. Instead, he was inciting many martial artists and demon immortals to charge into the valley. There were only a few dozen disciples from the Avalon of Five Elements inside the valley, but there were thousands of martial artists and demon immortals outside. Fortunately, the entrance to the valley was narrow, so these disciples could hold on. Otherwise, they would have been broken through long ago. Charge! Charge! Charge in and the treasure will belong to us. Under the repeated attacks, many of the disciples from the Avalon of Five Elements couldn't hold on any longer and started to show signs of defeat. Seeing this, many of the martial artists and demon immortals outside were overjoyed. Their attacks became even more ferocious. Humph! Just as the disciples from the Avalon of Five Elements couldn't hold on any longer, a furious roar suddenly resounded. Following which, a middle-aged man walked out from within the valley. A bunch of weaklings trying to snatch the treasure of the Avalon of Five Elements? The middle-aged man said disdainfully. His eyes flashed as he looked at the entrance of the valley. He waved his hand and slapped towards the entrance of the valley. A few martial artists and demon immortals who wanted to charge into the valley were killed on the spot. Not even their corpses were left behind. Dozens of martial artists and demon immortals were killed by this palm. This palm dispersed all the vital energy and gave them no chance of rebirth. The middle-aged man stood in front of the valley, exuding an imposing aura that seemed as though he could hold back 10,000 enemies alone. Surging nomological laws also surged from his body. It's Emperor Gu. It's Emperor Gu Li from the Avalon of Five Elements. Many people in the crowd retreated when they saw this middle-aged man. Evidently, they recognized Emperor Gu Li's identity. True emperors like them were like ants in front of Emperor Gu. They could be easily crushed. What do we do? This is Emperor Gu. Panic had clearly appeared within the crowd. However, there were not many people who were truly prepared to leave. Chapter 1371. This treasure was discovered by the Avalon of Five Elements. It belongs to the Avalon of Five Elements. Everyone, retreat 10 meters away from the entrance of the valley. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Ancient Emperor Li coldly snorted as he stood in front of the valley. With a wave of his hand, he drew a boundary 10 meters in front of the valley. Anyone who crosses the boundary will die in 3 seconds. Emperor Gu swept his gaze across the crowd. His cold voice was filled with murderous intent. The Avalon of Five Elements is too domineering. That's right. Even if the treasure was discovered by the Avalon of Five Elements, what can we do if we stay outside the valley? That's right. The immortal burial continent doesn't belong to the Avalon of Five Elements. Upon hearing Emperor Gu's words, many of the demon immortals were enraged. Many of them were geniuses nurtured by their respective factions. They were all favored by the heavens and had powerful factions backing them up. How could Emperor Gu retreat just like that? Let's stand here and see if he dares to kill us. That's right. We have Emperor Gu in the Yang sect too. Let's see if he dares to kill us. The young master of the Yang sect stood in his original position, showing no signs of retreating. Of course, not everyone ignored the ancient Emperor Lie's words. Many martialists and demon celestials chose to retreat 10 meters away. 3. Ancient Emperor Lie didn't even look at the crowd. He didn't even bother asking what they were saying. He just quietly counted the numbers. 2. I don't believe that he dares to kill all of us. Young Master Yang Sek's confidence grew when he saw that there were still more than 20 demon immortals who didn't retreat. 1. Emperor Gu finished counting and swept his gaze across the 20 demon immortals in front of the valley's entrance. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Alright, if you don't want to retreat, then all of you will die today. Rumble. Emperor Gu's spirit power erupted like a ravenous wolf as he charged at the 20 or so demon immortals. Before most of the martial artists and demon immortals could react, Emperor Gu's palm strike had already landed. The power of his palm seemed to be enough to sweep away everything. All enemies would die under his palm wind. Boom! One after another, the martial artist demon gods were annihilated by this palm strike. Not even their bones remained, and they could no longer be revived. You dare to kill me? My father is the Emperor Gu of Luna. Young Lord Jianwang didn't expect Emperor Gu to not put them in his eyes. He didn't even have time to retreat before Emperor Gu's palm strike enveloped his head. Who does the Yang sect think they are? If they dare to challenge the Avalon of 5 elements, the Yang sect will be destroyed. Ancient Emperor Li attacked directly. Spiritual energy erupted from his palm and killed young Master Yu Yang on the spot. In his palm, young Master Yu Yang was killed. More than 20 martial artists and demon immortals in front of the valley's entrance were killed by Emperor Gu in one move. Not a single one was left alive. Heavens! Young Lord Yu Yang is also on the Zenith Heaven Genius ranking. I can't believe he died just like that. How terrifying! Emperor Gu's attack stunned all the martial artists and demon immortals present. Young Lord Yu Yang was a well-known figure in Daluo Star Field. He had the potential to become Emperor Gu in the future, and his background was extraordinary as well. But now, he had died in front of Emperor Gu. Even his background couldn't save him. Although they were only one step away from the valley, no one dared to take this step. Senior brother, this is not good. If this continues, the Avalon of 5 elements will get the treasure. Luo Kang, who had been observing the scene, couldn't help but ask. The best plan would have been to seize the treasure amidst the chaos. If the martial artists and demon immortals had attacked the valley, they would have been able to seize the opportunity to seize the treasure. But now, Emperor Gu's attack had stunned everyone present. No one dared to take another step forward. After all, if they did, they would be killed by Emperor Gu. Wait. Chu Fenmian only said one word. His gaze wasn't on the martial artists and demon immortals outside the valley. Instead, he looked at the sky. The sky wasn't as calm as it seemed. There were at least a few Emperor Gu at the edge of the valley, waiting for an opportunity. Emperor Gu wouldn't let the Avalon of 5 elements get the treasure. There was more than one Emperor Gu in the valley. Chu Fenmian sensed that besides Emperor Gu, there were at least 2 other Emperor Gu in the valley. They were probably refining the restrictions on the treasure. Even Emperor Gu had to spend a lot of effort to refine the restrictions on the 5-colored treasure. When the situation gets chaotic, I'll go in to seize the treasure. If you encounter any danger, just run. Chu Fenmian looked at Luo Kang and said. With Luo Kang's current strength, he could barely resist 1 or 2 moves from Emperor Gu. But if a battle were to break out in the valley, there would be a few Emperor Gu involved. It would be too dangerous for Luo Kang to enter the valley. Senior brother, don't worry. Although I'm not strong enough, escaping won't be a problem. Luo Kang smiled when he heard Chu Fenmian's words. He didn't have any real thoughts about the treasure. After all, only Emperor Gu was qualified to fight for it. He was only here to assist Chu Fenmian. Since coming to the Immortal Burial Continent, Luo Kang had already received countless benefits. He was already satisfied. Good. The restrictions on the treasure are about to be refined. Chu Fengmian observed that the five-colored rays were getting thinner and thinner. When the five-colored light completely disappeared, it would be the time when the treasure was refined and taken away by someone. Although the warriors and demon gods outside the valley were intimidated by Emperor Gu, not many of them left. Their gazes were fixed on the changes in the five-colored rays. Many of them were calculating in their hearts, waiting for the final moment to snatch the treasure. Boom! Suddenly, a burst of spiritual energy burst out from the valley. The color of the multicolored light became even dimmer and almost couldn't be seen clearly. Charge! The treasure has been opened. Even if it's just one ancient emperor, he can't stop all of us. Suddenly, 8 figures flew out from the crowd and rushed into the valley. They weren't Emperor Gu but 6 Tribulation True Emperors. They were much stronger than ordinary 6 Tribulation True Emperors. At the very least, they were on the same level as young Lord Jianwang. Chapter 1372. Ints, how dare you challenge the prestige of the Avalon of 5 elements? Die! Ancient Emperor Li Yi was enraged. With a roar, his aura surged. Ancient Emperor Li Yi unleashed his full strength. 1 against 8, he was not afraid at all. He sent out a palm strike. Set up the formation. The 8 cultivators let out a roar at the same time and poured their spiritual energy into the formation. Then, they used the formation to meet the attack. When Ancient Emperor Li Yi's palm strike landed on the array formed by the 8 martialists, a burst of spiritual energy erupted and cracks appeared on the array formation. Even if the 8 martial artists on the great overarching genius ranking joined forces, it was still difficult for them to fight Ancient Emperor Li Yi. However, these 8 people had no intention of engaging in a bloody battle with Ancient Emperor Li Yi. Thus, they took the blow and rushed straight into the valley. In an instant, only afterimages were left as they rushed into the valley. Their goal wasn't to fight Ancient Emperor Li Yi, but to obtain the 5-colored treasure within the valley. Damn it! All of you, die! Emperor Gu was infuriated. He gathered his spiritual energy and wanted to rush in. In an instant, a ray of light fell from the sky, heading straight for Ancient Emperor Li Yi. This ray of light was black and white, containing the power of yin and yang. It fused the power of yin and yang into one and complemented each other. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed. The attacker was a young man who didn't seem to be 100 years old. He was a 6 Tribulation True Emperor but his strength wasn't inferior to Emperor Gu's. The laws of heaven and earth appeared on his body. There were 900 of them, the same as Chu Fengmian. He was at the peak of Emperor Gu's realm. His strength wasn't inferior to the 2 Emperor Gus from Solar Palace. After the young man made his move, more spiritual energy was directed at Emperor Gu. Dozens of cultivators attacked at the same time. A disciple of the Sacred Dragon Secret Territory? Chu Fengmian saw that the attackers were all disciples of the Sacred Dragon Secret Territory. This young man should be a disciple of the Sacred Dragon Secret Territory as well. It's Yin Yangzi. Luo Kang's eyes flashed with fear when he saw the attacker. Master Yin Yangzi is a holy son of the Holy Dragon Secret Dimension. He came from the Holy Court and has an extraordinary status. He has made things difficult for our Holy Dragon sect many times. It's said that he has some grudges with 4th senior brother and is not easy to deal with. He's ranked 31st on the Great Overarching Genius ranking. A saint child. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed. The Holy Son of the Holy Dragon Mystic Domain had a transcendent status that was even higher than the Elders of the Holy Dragon Mystic Domain. They were on the same level as the Grand Elders. It was said that the Holy Sons of the Holy Dragon Mystic Domain were all geniuses who would definitely enter the Ancient Emperor realm in the future. Yin Yangzi was a 6 Tribulation True Emperor but his true strength wasn't much different from a real Ancient Emperor. This is a saint child of the Sacred Dragon Secret Territory. Chu Fengmian sized up Yin Yangzi for a second before looking back at the valley. Ancient Emperor Li Yi was forced to take a few steps back by Yin Yangzi's sudden attack and the combined power of dozens of experts from the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm. His blood was boiling and it was obvious that he had suffered some injuries. All disciples of the sacred dragon's secret territory, charge in. Those who obtain the treasure will be heavily rewarded. Yin Yangzi let out a roar. He did not waste any more time with ancient Emperor Li Yi. He turned into a yin yang ray and charged forward. At the same time, many disciples of the sacred dragon's secret territory followed him and rushed into the valley. Since Emperor Gu was forced back, the cultivators and Yao gods went crazy. They didn't care about the price and rushed into the valley. The scene became chaotic. This was exactly what Chu Fengmian wanted. "Let's go!" Chu Fengmian observed the situation and suddenly appeared. He activated his escape light and rushed into the valley. His escape light was extremely fast and surpassed many people in an instant. Luo Kang didn't want to be outdone and also used his escape light. The two of them rushed into the valley in an instant. What a fast escape light! Who is it? Chu Fengmian and Luo Kang's escape light immediately attracted the attention of many people. Yin Yangzi's gaze even fell on Luo Kang. Disciple of the sacred dragon sect? Luo Kang, it's you. Yin Yangzi's eyes flashed with murderous intent when he saw Luo Kang. You actually came to the immortal burial continent. Very well, I'll kill you today. Let's get rid of a monster from the sacred dragon sect first. Yin Yangzi said as he attacked. A horsetail whisk suddenly appeared in his hand and he attacked Luo Kang. The whisk emitted the power of yin and yang. It turned into a long river and attacked Luo Kang. Once a cultivator fell into the long river of yin and yang, they would be torn to pieces by its power. Courting death? Chu Fengmian snorted coldly when he saw Yin Yangzi attack with a killing move. Now that Chu Fengmian was also a member of the sacred dragon sect, how could he watch Yin Yangzi attack Luo Kang? Chu Fengmian's mind moved. The battle dragon claw condensed above his head and attacked the long river of yin and yang. In an instant, the long river of yin and yang was shattered. A puny boundary emperor has such power? Yin Yangzi didn't expect Chu Fengmian's sudden attack to shatter his long river of yin and yang so easily. After all, he was someone who was close to Emperor Gu, while Chu Fengmian was only a boundary emperor. He didn't take Chu Fengmian seriously just now. I didn't expect that I would be wrong. Yin Yangzi looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Who are you? How dare you help Luo Kang? Since you're talented, I can spare your life if you scram now. Otherwise, you'll die with Luo Kang today. What arrogance! Who do you think you are? How dare you kill a disciple of the sacred dragon sect? He could see that Yin Yangzi was an enemy and not a friend. Since that was the case, Chu Fengmian didn't need to be polite. Chu Fengmian glanced at Yin Yangzi and said coldly. Kneel down and end your own life, and I'll leave you with a complete corpse. Otherwise, you won't even have a corpse left. Many disciples of the sacred dragon's secret territory looked at each other when they heard Chu Fengmian's words. This was Yin Yangzi, one of the holy sons of the holy dragon mystery dimension. He was ranked at the top of the great Luo genius ranking and was strong enough to fight the ancient emperor. How dare someone speak to Yin Yangzi in such a manner? What did you say? Yin Yangzi's face turned ashen when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Anger surged in his heart. Ignorant brat. Today, I'll let you die under my Tao of yin and yang. Chapter 1373. The horsetail whisk contained the power of yin and yang. The power of yin and yang represented the change of heaven and earth. Now, the space around Chu Fengmian seemed to have turned into a unique small world, enveloping Chu Fengmian. Senior brother, be careful. This is the yin-yang reversal technique. If you're trapped inside, you might not be able to get out forever. You must not be trapped inside. Luo Kang saw the change of heaven and earth around Chu Fengmian and hurriedly reminded him. Senior brother? You're a disciple of the Holy Dragon Sect? The newcomer of this year? Hearing Luo Kang's address, Yin Yangzi's gaze suddenly fell on Chu Fengmian. He carefully sized him up, and his face lit up. Great, I didn't expect you to be the newcomer. Today is just right. Not only can I kill Luokong, but I can also kill you. In the future, your holy dragon sect will be destroyed by our holy court. After knowing Chu Fengmian's identity, Yin Yangzi became extremely excited. The power in his body also became much more violent. Yin Yangzi hated the holy dragon sect very much. Now, not only could he kill Luokong, but he could also kill Chu Fengmian. This made Yin Yangzi very excited. Reversal of heaven and earth. Seal heaven and earth. Yin Yangzi roared and aimed at Chu Fengmian. A burst of spiritual power blasted out. In an instant, it enveloped Chu Fengmian. This burst of spiritual power seemed to have locked onto Chu Fengmian's body. No matter what Chu Fengmian did, he could not escape. Chu Fengmian had nowhere to run. Around Chu Fengmian, heaven and earth spun. Countless spiritual power went berserk. The space he was in seemed to have been banished to an ancient era and fell into a cage. Chu Fengmian stood in place and did not move. He allowed the cage to completely trap his body. Then, he sneered. Yin Yangzi? The Tao of Yin and Yang is not something you can touch. Do you think you can trap me with your shallow cultivation? Break! Chu Fengmian roared. A dragon claw condensed behind Chu Fengmian and suddenly blasted out. Ancestors' first move. This dragon claw was the origin of the Dragon Clan's martial techniques. It was the most ancient martial technique of the Dragon Clan. The origin of all martial techniques of the Dragon Clan. With a swipe of his claw, the dragons roared. Now that his strength had improved, it was no longer as difficult for him to execute the first style as before. Instead, he could continuously execute it with his hands. It was not a problem for him to execute it 7 or 8 times in a row. The power of the first style in Chu Fengmian's hands was comparable to that of the ancient emperor of the dragon tribe. Boom! As the dragon claw landed in front of Chu Fengmian, the cage created by the Tao of Yin and Yang around Chu Fengmian was immediately torn apart. So what if Yin Yangzi's strength was comparable to Emperor Gu's? Chu Fengmian had truly killed 3 Emperor Gu. He was even stronger than Yin Yangzi. The cage was completely torn apart. Chu Fengmian stood in the air with a disdainful sneer on his face. Who is this person? He actually has the power to fight Yin Yangzi? Many martial artists and demon gods had already rushed into the valley. They were all shocked to see this scene. They were not familiar with Chu Fengmian, but Yin Yangzi was a well-known figure. He was ranked 31st on the Great Luo Genius ranking. He was an existence that could rival Emperor Gu. Although he was not Emperor Gu was on equal footing with Yin Yangzi. Previously, he had joined forces with many disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm to defeat Emperor Gu of Liyi. He was extremely impressive. Now, there was someone who could contend with such a peerless genius. Especially when Chu Fengmian was only a quasi-emperor. This made many people rub their eyes in disbelief. A quasi-emperor could contend with Yin Yangzi? It must be Yin Yangzi who did not use his full strength earlier. That's right. Yin Yangzi is a figure who is on equal footing with Emperor Gu. Wouldn't it be easy for him to deal with a quasi-emperor? The discussions of many martial artists were heard by Yin Yangzi. His face turned gloomy when he heard it. Others might not know, but he knew that he did not go easy on Chu Fengmian. He had used his full strength, but it was easily neutralized by Chu Fengmian. If Yin Yangzi couldn't even deal with a quasi-emperor like Chu Fengmian in front of so many people, then he would really lose face. Die, you little bastard! Yin Yangzi was furious. The Tao of Yin Yang shrouded his body. His body seemed to be divided into 2. One side was white while the other side was dark. He had transformed into Yin Yang. The current Yin Yangzi looked like the incarnation of Yin and Yang. He was Yin and Yang. His every move contained the Tao of Yin and Yang. Rumble! Yin Yangzi channeled his power and punched at Chu Fengmian. The space around Chu Fengmian was shattered by this punch. This was indeed a power that only Emperor Gu could achieve. This punch was enough to destroy everything. You should be proud of yourself for forcing me to use my Yin Yang body. Yin Yangzi stared at Chu Fengmian and said coldly, "Yin Yang body." It's said that Yin Yangzi had a great adventure and cultivated an innate divine body. It's true. The Yin Yang body is one of the top 10 innate divine bodies. To be able to cultivate an innate divine body, this Yin Yangzi really has a great adventure. As soon as the Yin Yang body appeared, Yin Yangzi's strength skyrocketed by dozens of times. He originally cultivated the Tao of Yin and Yang, and now with the help of the Yin Yang body, each of his moves contained the power of Xiantian, and his strength was extremely terrifying. Yin Yang body? It was cultivated after birth. Chu Fengmian looked at the Yin Yangzi's Yin Yang body. Chu Fengmian could tell that Yin Yangzi had a great adventure similar to Chu Fengmian's ice and fire divine body. However, compared to Chu Fengmian's ice and fire divine body, Yin Yangzi's Yin Yang body was far inferior. Chu Fengmian's ice and fire divine body was truly on par with the innate divine body. As for Yin Yangzi's Yin Yang body, it could only be considered the weakest among the innate divine bodies. However, even if it was at the bottom, it was countless times stronger than other martial artists. Yin Yangzi was able to fight Emperor Gu because of his Yin Yang body. Today, you'll go with Luo Khan. You can accompany him on the road to the underworld. Yin Yangzi's power had reached its peak. He faced Chu Fengmian and the power of Yin and Yang in his fist surged. He wanted to kill Chu Fengmian on the spot. He could also tell that Chu Fengmian must have had countless fortuitous encounters. Chu Fengmian was able to fight him as a quasi-emperor, and his aptitude was not inferior to Supreme Cloud. He had made up his mind that he would not let Chu Fengmian leave alive even if he had to give up the treasure. Chapter 1374. Chu Fengmian sneered while looking at Yin Yangzi. Xiantian power? Chu Fengmian's ice-fire divine physique was above average among the Xiantian physiques. It was much stronger than Yin Yangzi's Yin Yang physique. Chu Fengmian channeled the power of his ice-fire divine physique and instantly unleashed it. He didn't even think about using his full strength against Yin Yangzi. However, Chu Fengmian didn't want to waste time with Yin Yangzi because of the treasure. Chu Fengmian made up his mind to end this quickly. Boom! The full power of the ice-fire divine physique emerged from Chu Fengmian's back. Chu Fengmian made a grabbing motion and a disc containing the divine power of ice and fire appeared in the sky. He faced Yin Yangzi's palm strike and directly struck it. Yin Yangzi's fist was shattered by the disc along with the power of Yin Yang. Xiantian divine physique. He also has a Xiantian divine physique. This is too terrifying. This person was actually still holding back when he was facing Yin Yangzi? This scene left the crowd dumbfounded. When Yin Yangzi revealed his Yin Yang physique, everyone thought that Chu Fengmian would lose without a doubt. Who would have thought that Chu Fengmian would be able to suppress him? No one would believe that a quasi-emperor could suppress a sixth tribulation true emperor. Moreover, Yin Yangzi wasn't an ordinary sixth tribulation true emperor. He was one of the top geniuses on the Grand Luo Genius ranking. His strength is even more terrifying than the Princess of the Sea. He has a chance to become the peerless Emperor Gu in the future. It sounds like he's from the Holy Dragon sect. Didn't they just recruit a newcomer recently? Could it be him? How can a newcomer be so powerful? Some people had already guessed Chu Fengmian's identity. Everyone knew about Yin Yangzi's hostility towards the Holy Dragon sect. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was standing with Luo Khan. His identity was self-evident. Monster. Too monstrous. I'm afraid he'll be the next Jinzun in the future. Look! While the crowd was discussing, another collision occurred in the sky. How can this be? How can he be so strong? Just how many amazing fortuitous encounters are there? Yin Yangzi stared at Chu Fengmian with incomparable madness in his eyes. He could see that whether it was the Dragon Clan martial skill that Chu Fengmian had used or the power of the ice and fire divine body, they were all obtained by shocking fortuitous encounters. Right now, Chu Fengmian was only in the Boundary Emperor realm, but he was already strong enough to contend with him. If Chu Fengmian stepped into the Emperor realm in the future, he would most likely become the peerless Emperor Gu. No, I have to kill this person. If I don't kill him, there will be no end of trouble in the future. Yin Yangzi roared and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. The essence blood turned into Yin and Yang's spirit energy in his hand and turned into a long saber that slashed towards Chu Fengmian. At the same time, rays of golden light flew out from Yin Yangzi's body and merged into the blade. Laws of heaven and earth. Yin Yangzi is going all out. These rays of golden light were the laws of heaven and earth. When the laws of heaven and earth appeared in a battle between emperors, it was almost an act of desperation. It was either you die or I die. Seeing Chu Fengmian's strength, Yin Yangzi couldn't hold back anymore. He was going all out to kill Chu Fengmian. This blade ignored everything in the world and targeted Chu Fengmian. No matter how Chu Fengmian dodged, he couldn't avoid this blade. It's useless even if the laws of heaven and earth come out. Today, you will definitely die on the spot. Chu Fengmian stood motionless as he watched the blade coming at him. His lips curled into a sneer. Dragon rise. Roar. Beside Chu Fengmian, his spirit energy turned into ancient battle dragons and the dragons roared. Chu Fengmian was in the center, like a high and mighty dragon emperor. He raised his right hand and the power of the ancient battle dragons merged into Chu Fengmian's palm. The ancient and majestic power, which contained the power of dragons, rose steadily in Chu Fengmian's palm. What kind of power is this? Dragon Clan martial skill? I have seen the Dragon Clan martial skill used by the Dragon Emperor, but it didn't have such momentum. How can this person have such a martial skill? When Yin Yangzi saw the power in Chu Fengmian's right hand, his face became extremely crazy. Kill! I will kill you. All your adventures will belong to me. Yin Yangzi spat out another mouthful of essence blood. When he spat out this mouthful of essence blood, his face became much paler. The essence blood merged with the power of the Yin Yang long blade and burned with layers of flames, attacking Chu Fengmian. Feudal struggle. Chu Fengmian glanced at it and said coldly. Ancestor's second move, break. With the word break, Chu Fengmian's right hand suddenly turned into a dragon claw. This dragon claw was incomparably ancient and had 40,000 formations on it. Ancestor's claw. The real ancestor Jianwang's claw. Many people saw a dragon shadow fly past Chu Fengmian's back the moment the claw struck out. This dragon shadow was more powerful and majestic than all the dragon kings and dragon emperors they had seen before. When the dragon shadow appeared, some warriors who were slightly stronger couldn't resist the power of the dragon and immediately retreated. Die! The power of the second move collided with the Yin Yang long blade. Almost in an instant, the Yin Yang long blade was shattered. It was far from being able to resist the power of the second move. At the same time, the power of the second move bombarded Yin Yangzi's body. In the next moment, Yin Yangzi's body was shattered and turned into a bloody mist. Only a stream of essence blood flew out from his body. Trying to escape? Chu Fengmian turned his eyes and looked in the direction of the stream of essence blood. In an instant, he struck out with his claw. This stream of essence blood had no time to resist and was shattered by Chu Fengmian's palm. However, at this moment, a broken sound was heard. The moment he heard the sound, Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly changed and flew directly into the depths of the valley. The shattering sound was none other than the restriction on the 5-colored treasure trove. The restriction on the 5-colored treasure was broken much faster than Chu Fengmian had expected. He immediately flew over. Boom! Just as Chu Fengmian's conveyance light rushed into the depths of the valley, a huge explosion was heard. At the same time, the silhouettes of several ancient emperors were forced out by the explosion. 9 Emperor Gu. And 5 geniuses who aren't inferior to Emperor Gu. Luo Kang followed closely behind and gasped when he saw a few of the figures. Chapter 1375. The treasure is about to appear. Chu Fengmian sized up the 14 Emperor Gu, then shifted his gaze back to the valley. A brocade scroll suddenly flew out from the depths of the valley, illuminated by a 5-colored radiance. This brocade scroll was the 5-colored treasure. The brocade cloth flew out from the depths of the valley, turning into a beam of light as it attempted to fly out. The speed of this beam of light was comparable to that of the ancient emperor. "What's that?" Luo Kang jumped in fright. How could a brocade scroll be comparable to Emperor Gu's? Not even a heaven-grade spirit weapon had such power. Good stuff, it's definitely a celestial item. Chu Fengmian looked at the cloth and sensed the unique power from it. It was weak, but it was completely different from an emperor's power. It was said that the celestial realm was the transition between a human and a celestial. Celestial experts were qualified to be called immortals. The power was no longer spiritual, but immortal energy. Chu Fengmian sensed the presence of immortal force from the cloth. Although it was weak, it was no longer spirit force. It was definitely a celestial item. I must have this brocade scroll. If Chu Fengmian could get his hands on a celestial item, he would truly soar to the heavens. This brocade scroll, in particular, wasn't even a spirit weapon, but it contained such terrifying power. It was definitely a rare treasure. After this roll of cloth flew out of the valley, it directly flew towards the west. The treasure! It's mine! The nearby martial artists and Yao gods immediately became extremely excited. They immediately rushed over, wanting to grab the brocade cloth. How dare a bunch of ants compete for a celestial item? All of you, die! However, before they could even get close to the brocade cloth, a fist imprint suddenly descended from the sky and smashed those martial cultivators and Yao gods into pieces. The scroll was something that all 14 Emperor Gu were fighting over. The true emperors and quasi-emperors would be courting death if they tried to take it. It's Emperor Gu of Mount Qilin. What great power! Emperor Gu is indeed a master of pure power. Not only did the fist seal kill all the demon immortals that tried to approach, but it also struck the brocade cloth in an attempt to break the light of the brocade cloth. However, the embroidered cloth suddenly emitted a 5-colored light that completely neutralized the power of the punch. However, this brocade cloth actually changed direction and flew towards the south. It was precisely the direction where Chu Fengmian was located. This is my chance. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed when he saw this. Obtaining this brocade cloth would definitely bring him great benefits. Come here. Chu Fengmian's right hand transformed into a dragon claw, grabbing at the scroll. After all, this brocade cloth was an inanimate object. After taking a blow from the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor, its strength had weakened significantly. It was enveloped by Chu Fengmian's dragon claw, and was grasped in the palm of Chu Fengmian's hand. The multicolored radiance on it dimmed, as if it could shatter at any time. You to die. A puny quasi-emperor dares to snatch a celestial object? Boom! Emperor Gu, who was the first to chase after the scroll, was furious when he saw Chu Fengmian grab the scroll. He threw a punch at Chu Fengmian. This punch was a punch of pure power, without any fancy moves. The power within it shattered the surrounding space, turning it into a void. Emperor Gu launched an attack at Chu Fengmian. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also felt many unfriendly gazes. So many Emperor Gu had come for the scroll. Now that Chu Fengmian had grabbed the scroll, he became the target of public criticism. First move of the primogenitor. Chu Fengmian's right hand remained motionless, still grabbing the scroll. His left hand suddenly transformed into a dragon claw, striking at Emperor Gu. Boom! When the two forces collided, Chu Fengmian's body was sent flying. The Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor was an ancient emperor formed purely through strength. His strength was extremely strong. Even Old Swordbone, who was on the verge of becoming an 8 Tribulation True Emperor, couldn't compete with Emperor Gu in terms of brute force. However, the power of the first move was enough to weaken the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor by 80%. The remaining 20% landed on Chu Fengmian. The 129,600 fleshly crystals on Chu Fengmian's body flew out at the same time, coalescing into a single entity. The remaining power was directly neutralized by the 129,600 blood and flesh crystals. Chu Fengmian's body was only sent flying, but he didn't seem to be injured at all. At the same time, Chu Fengmian tightly grasped that roll of cloth. It was still in Chu Fengmian's hand. He's unharmed? How can this be? A quasi-emperor can withstand Emperor Gu's power? The entire place was dead silent. Everyone's heart was incomparably shocked, and huge waves were set off in their hearts. This was an attack from an ancient emperor. Moreover, it was the Bronze Gate ancient emperor, who was known for his strength. Even an ancient emperor might not come out unscathed after taking a punch from the Bronze Gate ancient emperor. Even though the first move had already weakened the power of the punch by 80%, the Bronze Gate ancient emperor's punch was still extremely powerful. However, the remaining 20% or even 10% was enough to easily crush an emperor. They wouldn't believe it if they didn't see it with their own eyes. Crack! A crisp sound pulled the crowd back from their shock. Countless gazes looked over, only to see that cracks had begun to appear on the multicolored light on the brocade cloth that Chu Fengmian was holding tightly in his right hand. This five-colored light was the protection of the scroll. If it were to break, it would fall into Chu Fengmian's hands. Go! In that instant, a total of 4 ancient emperors rushed towards Chu Fengmian at the same time. Each of them used their own moves to kill Chu Fengmian. They had been fighting for this scroll for a long time. They wouldn't let Chu Fengmian get it so easily. Go! Chu Fengmian made a prompt decision. He turned into a streak of light and flew towards the south. He was courting death by staying behind and fighting 14 Emperor Gu. Even an 8 Tribulation Emperor Gu couldn't take on 10 of them alone. His escape light was extremely fast. The attacks of the 4 ancient emperors landed on Chu Fengmian's body. However, they only landed on an afterimage. Chu Fengmian's real body was already dozens of li away. What a fast escape light! Who's this brat? After him! I must get this treasure. Chapter 1376. It wasn't just the 14 Emperor Gu. Almost all the martial artists and demon immortals with some strength wanted to join in and see if there was a chance. Following Chu Fengmian's escape light were the escape lights of dozens of experts. The escape lights of the 14 Emperor Gu followed closely behind Chu Fengmian. However, they didn't get close to Chu Fengmian even after chasing for hundreds of miles. Instead, they were getting further and further away from Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's escape light was fast to begin with. In addition, Chu Fengmian now had the bloodline of primogenitor Jianwang. Primogenitor Jianwang was the overlord of the sky. Chu Fengmian's escape light was even faster than Emperor Gu's escape light with the support of primogenitor Tianwang's bloodline. How can this kid's escape light be so fast? What a strange kid. Not only can he withstand Tongmen's punch, but he can also travel so fast. Several Emperor Gu chased after Chu Fengmian's escape light. They were all furious when they saw Chu Fengmian's escape light getting faster and faster. This brocade cloth was something that the 14 Emperor Gu were fighting over. Now that Chu Fengmian suddenly intervened and took it away, it was a slap to the faces of the 14 Emperor Gu. It was especially so for the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor. His heart was bleeding. He was the one with the highest chance of obtaining the brocade cloth. Who would have thought that Chu Fengmian would interfere and snatch it away? He looked at Chu Fengmian with blood-red eyes that contained killing intent. His escape light couldn't help but speed up a little. At the same time, there was a hint of greed in his murderous eyes. He could tell at a glance that Chu Fengmian's Dragon Clan martial technique and escape light weren't ordinary martial techniques. They were much stronger than heaven-class martial techniques. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was only a quasi-emperor, but he was able to withstand the power of his punch. What a shocking fortuitous encounter. Emperor Gu felt that killing Chu Fengmian and obtaining all of Chu Fengmian's fortuitous encounter might bring him more benefits than the brocade cloth. At the thought of this, the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor shouted. Everyone, we can't continue chasing him like this. Let's exert our strength together and seal him down first. Otherwise, none of us will be able to obtain this brocade cloth. All right? That's right, let's work together to deal with this brat first. If a mere quasi-emperor were to snatch the brocade cloth from our hands, people would laugh their heads off. Attack! Let's deal with this brat first. Hearing Emperor Gu's words, several Emperor Gu expressed their agreement. In an instant, 9 of the Emperor Gu began to circulate their spiritual energy. When the 9 Emperor Gu unleashed their full strength, it was earth-shattering. Even though there were countless experts fighting in the immoral burial continent, it was still rare to see 9 Emperor Gu joining forces. The 9 Emperor Gu's power intertwined in the air and suddenly turned into a ray of light that chased after Chu Fengmian. The moment it got close to Chu Fengmian, the ray of light exploded and turned into thin threads that formed an inescapable net around Chu Fengmian. These thin threads were Emperor Gu's power and it wouldn't be easy to break them. We've trapped this brat. Let's go after him. Seeing that Chu Fengmian was trapped in this inescapable net, Emperor Gu and the others were overjoyed and hurriedly chased after Chu Fengmian. How troublesome! Chu Fengmian looked at the layers of seals around him with a serious expression. If an ordinary Emperor Gu were to stand in front of him, Chu Fengmian would be able to kill him instantly. If Chu Fengmian unleashed his full strength, he could even fight one against 2 or 3 Emperor Gu. However, he was facing 9 Emperor Gu at the same time. Moreover, the remaining 6 Emperor Gu didn't have any plans to deal with Chu Fengmian. They all had their own plans and could attack Chu Fengmian at any time. I have to buy some time. Chu Fengmian made up his mind. At present, half of his strength was used to refine the seal on the brocade cloth, so Chu Fengmian had been suppressing his strength. If he wanted to deal with these quasi-emperors, he must first refine all the seals on the brocade cloth. Once Chu Fengmian regained his full strength, his chances of escaping would be much higher. Sword out. Chu Fengmian moved his left hand and the ancestral dragon's supreme sword was suddenly unsheathed. In an instant, a ray of sword light soared into the sky and slashed at the countless thin threads in front of him. The inescapable net set up by the 9 Emperor Gu was about to be broken by this ray of sword light. What powerful swordsmanship! Where did this brat come from? How could he possess such shocking swordsmanship? Among the 14 Emperor Gu, an elder was shocked when he saw Chu Fengmian's sword light. Others could only see that Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was shockingly powerful, but as a sword cultivator, he could see that Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship had reached an unparalleled level. Compared to Emperor Gu himself, Chu Fengmian's attainment in swordsmanship was much higher. This brat must have had an amazing encounter. This sword cultivator Emperor Gu stared at Chu Fengmian with a murderous look in his eyes. Don't let this brat escape. Emperor Gu roared loudly. Continue to seal him off. Inescapable net. This time, 10 Emperor Gu attacked at the same time. They gathered their spiritual power to weave a net and envelop Chu Fengmian. The sword cultivator Emperor Gu didn't attack at first, but after witnessing Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship, he joined in and attacked together to seal Chu Fengmian. The opening that Chu Fengmian had just created was immediately covered. At the same time, the inescapable net became even tighter. Even the 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu couldn't break free in a short time. The 14 Emperor Gu arrived in front of Chu Fengmian in an instant. 14 Emperor Gu attacked at the same time. Countless forces targeted the roll of brocade cloth in Chu Fengmian's hand. To them, killing Chu Fengmian didn't mean much. Their real goal was to obtain the roll of brocade cloth. It was a celestial item. If they could obtain it, they might have a chance to comprehend the secrets of the celestial beings. Of the 14 ancient emperors present, which one of them didn't want to take another step forward and undergo a nirvanic rebirth to become a heavenly human? Therefore, a heavenly human item was extremely attractive to any of the ancient emperors. Among the 14 Emperor Gu, there were 2 forces targeting Chu Fengmian instead of the roll of brocade cloth. They wanted to kill Chu Fengmian on the spot. These 2 forces were the sword cultivator Emperor Gu and the bronze gate Emperor Gu. Both of them were the first to see the value of Chu Fengmian's fortuitous encounter. It wasn't inferior to the roll of brocade cloth. Chapter 1377. This is bad. Hesitation flashed across Chu Fengmian's eyes. If he gave up on the brocade cloth, he would definitely be able to escape. However, he could feel that the brocade cloth was definitely not an ordinary celestial item. It might even contain an even greater secret. Chu Fengmian was unwilling to give it up like this. Who is it? Besieging a disciple of the sacred dragon's secret dimension. Just as Chu Fengmian was hesitating, two golden lights suddenly descended from the sky and landed in front of Chu Fengmian. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu. Emperor Gu Panjun. When Chu Fengmian saw the two figures, he immediately recognized them. Although this was Chu Fengmian's first time seeing them, he had already learned a lot about the ancient emperor of the sacred dragon mystery dimension from Luo Khan. These two people belonged to one of the four sects of the sacred dragon secret dimension, Emperor Gu of the Six Ultimate Sect. Seeing the arrival of the two figures, the other 14 Emperor Gus suddenly attacked with incredulous expressions. Emperor Gu of the Copper Gate shouted. What, this person is a disciple of the sacred dragon secret dimension? The 14 Emperor Gu originally didn't know which force Chu Fengmian was from. They didn't expect him to be from the sacred dragon secret dimension. The sacred dragon secret dimension was one of the four great forces of the Daluo star field. Anyone who wanted to kill a disciple of the sacred dragon secret dimension would have to think twice. Even Emperor Gu had to consider the gains and losses. That's right. Emperor Gu Yanlei nodded and turned to Chu Fengmian. I have never seen you before, but the identity token on your body does indeed indicate that you are a disciple of the sacred dragon secret dimension. Which sect are you from? You are really lucky to have obtained such a treasure. Emperor Gu Panjun also looked at the brocade cloth in Chu Fengmian's hand. Greed flashed across his eyes. There was no Emperor Gu who didn't want to obtain a celestial item. Chu Fengmian of the Sacred Dragon Sect. Chu Fengmian spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. At the same time, he kept a vigilant eye on the two Emperor Gu. Although the two Emperor Gu were the Emperor Gu of the Sacred Dragon Secret Dimension, there were different forces within the Sacred Dragon Secret Dimension. The Six Ultimate Sect was clearly one of the factions that was at odds with the Sacred Dragon Sect. Emperor Gu. The Emperor. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the look in the buried thunder ancient emperor's eyes suddenly changed. To the Emperor to. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu suddenly stopped and transmitted his voice to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, the treasure you've obtained is of great use to our sacred dragon secret ground. It's considered a great contribution. This treasure is not something you're qualified to obtain. Now, hand it over to us. When we return to the sacred dragon secret ground, you'll be rewarded handsomely. Leave it to you? Chu Fengmian's eyes turned frosty. The Yanlei Emperor Gu and Panjun Emperor Gu clearly wanted the treasure as well. Benefits? What benefit could be better than a celestial being's item? Once he returned to the Holy Dragon Mystery Realm, he could just casually give Chu Fengmian some contribution points and send him off. That's right, quickly hand over the treasure. You're just a tiny little disciple. Could it be that you intend to go against the Grand Elder's orders? This is a great sin. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu said viciously. Do you want to go to the law enforcement hall or do you want some benefits? It's up to you. Really? It's not up to you to decide whether to go to the law enforcement hall or not. Two old farts, how dare you set your sights on me? Come and take it if you have the ability. There's no need to be sanctimonious here. It's just the two of you. Chu Fengmian suddenly burst into laughter when he heard Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's words. He then said coldly. As the Grand Elder of the Sacred Dragon Secret Ground, instead of helping me to escape, you're eyeing the treasure? It seems that there are too many villains in the Sacred Dragon Secret Ground. I need to clean them up. Junior, do you want to die? Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu almost went mad with anger when he heard this and almost killed Chu Fengmian. As Emperor Gu, when had he ever been berated by a junior? In the Sacred Dragon's secret ground, Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu was a lofty Grand Elder. Today, he had been berated by Chu Fengmian's disciple, a junior, and called him a villain and an old fart. In an instant, Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu wanted to kill Chu Fengmian in front of everyone. However, his brain stopped him. If he killed Chu Fengmian now, the two of them would never be able to obtain the treasure. Seeing the change in Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's expression, the 14 Emperor Gu could guess what was going on. Submerged Thunder, Pan Jun, we don't have time to waste with you. Even if the two of you were here today, you wouldn't be able to contend against us. Hand over the brocade cloth and we'll let you go. Emperor Gu stared coldly at Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu and Pan Jun Emperor Gu. The Sacred Dragon's secret ground wasn't easy to deal with, but it was a celestial item. Given the choice between offending the Sacred Dragon's secret ground and obtaining the celestial item, these Emperor Gu would choose the celestial item without hesitation. In particular, the 3 Emperor Gu of the Avalon of 5 Elements were among them. The Avalon of 5 Elements power wasn't inferior to the Sacred Dragon's secret ground, so they naturally weren't afraid. Emperor Gu of the Li family had already recovered from his injuries. His spiritual energy was extremely violent and he could attack at any time. So you're saying that you'll definitely become enemies with the Sacred Dragon's secret ground? Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's eyes flashed with fighting spirit. He wasn't afraid at all. So what? You want to stop us with just the two of you? Delay the two of them and snatch the brocade cloth. Sword Cultivator Emperor Gu roared. Snatch it. Emperor Gu of the Li family suddenly attacked and blasted a palm strike at Chu Fengmian. He had accumulated a lot of anger and now wanted to vent it on Chu Fengmian. An incomparably terrifying power shrouded Chu Fengmian's head in the air. Emperor Gu of the Li family, others may be afraid of you, but I'm not. Emperor Gu of the Pan family snorted coldly. He took a step forward and similarly blasted a palm strike at Emperor Gu of the Li family. Emperor Gu of the Pan family was also an Emperor Gu of the Li family. He had always been at odds with Emperor Gu of the Li family. The two palms collided in the air and were evenly matched. Kid, hurry up and hand over the treasure. Hand it over and we'll bring you out of here alive. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep the treasure in your life if you stay here. Emperor Gu of the Submerged Thunder sect glared at Chu Fengmian and said fiercely. Chapter 1378. Is that so? You want to get my treasures without spending any effort? Humph. You want to get my treasures? Chu Fengmian sneered when he heard Emperor Gu's threat. You still want to threaten me? I don't care if you're a venerated elder. I'm a disciple of the Holy Dragon sect. I'd like to see how you'll deal with me when we return to the Holy Dragon's secret domain. The Holy Dragon sect had a transcendent status. Even if Emperor Gu was a venerated elder, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid. He had enough confidence. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was about to refine the restriction on the treasure during this period of delay. You two old farts, stay here and block the enemy for me. Chu Fengmian sneered. Break. With that word, the restriction on the brocade scroll in Chu Fengmian's hand shattered with a loud bang. The multicolored radiance shattered completely and the brocade scroll fell into Chu Fengmian's hand. The restriction has been broken. Quick, capture this kid. Several Emperor Gu's expressions were incomparably crazed when they saw this. They grabbed at Chu Fengmian. Emperor Gu gathered his spiritual power at the same time. Countless thunderbolts coalesced around him and transformed into a thunderous arm. He ignored his fellow sect members and grabbed at Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was instantly surrounded by boundless spiritual power and had nowhere to run. However, Chu Fengmian's expression was as calm as ever. Chu Fengmian merely lifted his eyelids in the face of the bombardment of spiritual power. Jianwang transformation. The power of primogenitor Jianwang surged through Chu Fengmian's bloodline. Chu Fengmian had expended half of his strength to refine the restriction on the treasure. Now that the restriction had been completely refined, Chu Fengmian could use his full strength. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded, shaking the heavens and earth. The moment everyone heard this dragon's roar, their hearts were filled with incomparable fear. This dragon's roar turned into a phantom, the ancestor of all dragons, the phantom of the primordial heavenly dragon, and arrived behind Chu Fengmian. With this dragon roar, all the spiritual power that was approaching Chu Fengmian froze in the air. All the ancient emperors were frozen in the air in an instant. Under the power of the heavenly dragon transformation, this space was completely sealed. Go! A space-time tunnel appeared behind Chu Fengmian and brought his body into it. Although Chu Fengmian was an Emperor Gu, he had Tianwang's bloodline. His control over space was much stronger than Emperor Gu's. In that instant, Chu Fengmian's figure seemed to have disappeared from the sky, as if he had never appeared. The battle came to an abrupt end. Chu Fengmian had run away, so what was the point of fighting? Not good. What kind of power was that? It's enough to seal us all? Countless Emperor Gu were shocked. Chu Fengmian had disappeared from their encirclement. Progenitor Jianwang. This is Progenitor Tianlong's power. Emperor Gu of Li looked at the dragon's shadow that hadn't disappeared and suddenly spoke. This person hid his strength well. He even has Tianlong's bloodline. With this power, he can seal and travel through space as he wishes. Then what should we do? Are we going to let this kid escape? Emperor Gu of the Bronze Gate, Emperor Gu of the Sword Cultivator, and the others looked at each other with murderous intent in their eyes. It wasn't just about the treasure anymore. The treasure was a small matter, but their reputation was more important. Right now, Chu Fengmian had thoroughly toyed with the 16 ancient emperors. If news of this got out, none of them would be able to keep their faces. When they found Chu Fengmian, not only would they want the treasure, they would kill him as well. This person only has a little bit of progenitor Tianlong's bloodline. He's far from being on par with the real progenitor Tianlong. Emperor Gu of Li looked at Chu Fengmian's departing figure and spoke. This move must have consumed a lot of energy. This kid can't have escaped far. I have a bronze gate that can travel through space. As long as we can find that kid, I can bring someone with me. Emperor Gu of the Bronze Gate looked at the crowd and spoke. He was called Emperor Gu of the Bronze Gate because he had obtained an ancient bronze gate. With this gate, Emperor Gu of the Bronze Gate reached his current realm. But who knows where the kid went? Chu Fengmian had left without a sound. They didn't even know which direction he'd gone. The immortal burial continent was so vast that even if they searched together, they wouldn't be able to find him until the moment it closed. I know where that little bastard is. He's a disciple of the Holy Dragon's secret realm. I can sense the location of his identity token. Take me there. Emperor Gu of Submerged Thunder said coldly. He hated Chu Fengmian to the bone. As the great Emperor Gu, he'd never been berated like this before. Especially since the Six Ultimates sect had a grudge with the Holy Dragon sect. They were like fire and water. Emperor Gu of Submerged Thunder wanted nothing more than to tear Chu Fengmian to pieces. Even if Chu Fengmian didn't have any treasure on him, Emperor Gu of Submerged Thunder was eager to kill him. Let's go! Emperor Gu of the Bronze Gate made a prompt decision when he heard this. He gathered his spiritual power and opened an ancient bronze gate in front of him. In the next instant, the bronze door opened and the bronze door ancient emperor and the buried thunder ancient emperor stepped inside. Unwilling to be outdone, Emperor Gu of Submerged Thunder used their own methods to search for Chu Fengmian's whereabouts. Within the immortal burial continent, Chu Fengmian's escape light was flying toward the continent. However, he was clearly much slower than before. After using the Tianwang change, Chu Fengmian's ancestral bloodline power had been completely drained from his body. He wouldn't be able to recover without half a day's rest. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian still had his sword skills. His sword skills alone were on par with ordinary Emperor Gu's, so he didn't fear Emperor Gu in the slightest. Chu Fengmian had taken advantage of the chaos to obtain the brocade cloth. His only thought now was to find a safe place and take a good look at the brocade cloth to see what kind of treasure it was. After all, the brocade cloth was a celestial item that could bring unparalleled benefits to Chu Fengmian. The fewer people who knew that the brocade scroll was in Chu Fengmian's hands, the better. Otherwise, it would definitely bring Chu Fengmian a lot of trouble. The ancient emperors would definitely not give up on killing Chu Fengmian and would not spread the news. He should be safe for the time being. Only when Chu Fengmian truly refined the brocade cloth and obtained the fortuitous encounter within would he be truly safe. His top priority was to find a safe place. However, the immortal burial continent was so vast that finding a safe place was easier said than done. Chapter 1379. Emperor Gu and Submerged Thunder. Emperor Gu still hadn't given up on hunting Chu Fengmian down. The ancient bronze door suddenly opened, and two figures stepped out from within. It's all thanks to Brother Submerged Thunder. We've finally found that little bastard. Let's kill that little bastard. I don't want that brocade cloth, I just want the little bastard's fortune. The Bronze Gate ancient emperor sneered and suddenly frowned. But what about the Holy Dragon sect? It doesn't matter. That little bastard has no respect for his elders. I'll clean up the sect by killing him. As for the brocade cloth, it'll belong to the Holy Dragon mystic realm. Submerged Thunder. Emperor Gu smirked and pointed in a direction when he sensed the auras around him. Over there. Their gazes immediately turned in Chu Fengmian's direction. That little bastard's flight light has indeed slowed down. Great, let's catch up and kill him. Their eyes were filled with greed as they urged their escape lights to chase after Chu Fengmian. Damn it, they've caught up to me? This identity medallion is really troublesome. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed coldly when he sensed that someone had caught up to him. He'd used the Jianwang transformation to escape, so no one should have been able to detect where he'd gone. But now that someone had caught up to him, it was clear that Submerged Thunder. Emperor Gu had used the Holy Dragon Mystic Realm's identity medallion to locate Chu Fengmian. Something's not right. Why are there only two people? Just as Chu Fengmian was about to flee, he suddenly sensed that there were only two auras chasing after him. Murderous intent flashed through Chu Fengmian's eyes when he saw this. It was impossible for Chu Fengmian to take on a dozen ancient emperors alone. However, if there were only two ancient emperors, Chu Fengmian might be able to handle them. However, Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu and Copper Gate Emperor Gu weren't easy to deal with either. They were much stronger than the two Sunfire Hall elders. As Chu Fengmian flew, he thought of a plan. Suddenly, a large fire field appeared not far in front of him. It was an area covered in flames. Countless heavenly flames were burning within it. Such an ominous place wasn't uncommon in the immortal burial continent. Treasures could be found in such an ominous place. However, even Emperor Gu was wary of the heavenly flame. Therefore, not many people dared to step into it. This is a dangerous place, but it's a good place. Chu Fengmian's eyes lit up the moment he saw the danger zone. He rushed straight towards it. The moment Chu Fengmian approached, the sky full of heavenly flames surged toward him. The heavenly fire seemed to want to incinerate all the warriors and demon gods that came close. However, Chu Fengmian was not afraid. With a thought, a layer of mysterious ice appeared around his body. No matter how the flame burned, Chu Fengmian could not feel any heat. His figure directly escaped into the depths of the fearsome land. Is this kid crazy? Suddenly, Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu said with a frown. Two streaks of light were chasing after Chu Fengmian not far away. What's going on? Bronze Gate Emperor Gu was surprised to hear this. What happened? That kid ran into an ominous place. The Crimson Fire Ridge should be in front of him. He has entered the Crimson Fire Ridge. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu said coldly. Among the innumerable ominous places in the immortal burial continent, the Crimson Fire Ridge was one of the most troublesome places. If Emperor Gu were to encounter an accident, he could die in it. According to the records, there were 3 Emperor Gu who had died in the Crimson Fire Ridge. He entered the Crimson Fire Ridge? Fear flashed in Bronze Gate Emperor Gu's eyes when he heard Emperor Gu's words. Obviously, he had also heard of the terror of the Crimson Fire Ridge. However, this fear only lasted for a moment. Thinking of Chu Fengmian's countless fortuitous encounters, Emperor Gu made up his mind. What's there to be afraid of? That little bastard definitely won't dare to go too deep. He's probably using the Crimson Fire Ridge to shake us off. If we don't chase after him, we'll fall into his trap. I have the Bronze Gate. Even if we encounter an accident, we can still leave calmly. Bronze Door Ancient Emperor said confidently. His bronze door could traverse through space. If he met with any mishap, he could use his bronze door to escape. After him. Hearing this, Ancient Emperor Buried Thunder no longer hesitated. The 2 of them also chased into the Crimson Fire Ridge. At the same time, they channeled their spiritual energy and formed a barrier around the 2 of them to resist the surrounding heavenly fire. They've caught up. Chu Fengmian's spiritual consciousness was already focused on the 2 chasing Emperor Gu. Seeing that they had also entered the Crimson Fire Ridge, Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. If they had retreated, Chu Fengmian would have been in trouble. Now that they had caught up, it was just the right time. He shuttled through the Scarlet Fire Ridge and flew towards the center of the Scarlet Fire Ridge. The closer he got to the center, the hotter the heavenly fire around him became. Even Emperor Gu would have to expend a lot of energy to deal with the heavenly fire. However, Chu Fengmian's Ice Fire Divine Body had an invisible resistance against the fire. Furthermore, he had the protection of the mysterious ice. In the Crimson Fire Ridge, Chu Fengmian seemed to have entered an uninhabited area. The heavenly fire didn't harm him at all. Instead, the power of his Ice Fire Divine Body grew stronger and stronger. So many sacred herbs. He noticed that the ground below the Crimson Fire Ridge was covered with all kinds of spiritual herbs. Without exception, these spiritual herbs were all sacred herbs of the fire element. Many of these sacred herbs were rarely seen outside. However, in this place, they grew in patches and were extremely old. If a fire elemental sovereign were to come here, he would go crazy. These sacred herbs of the fire element could be sold for a lot of wealth. However, Chu Fengmian's gaze only flashed past. His current goal was to deal with the 2 Emperor Gu. As for the other matters, they would have to be postponed. Go on. The deeper you go, the closer you will be to your death. Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a sinister smile. He deliberately slowed down and pretended to be strained. At the same time, he paid attention to every movement behind him. Now, his spiritual consciousness was enough to see the 2 Emperor Gu chasing each other. The 2 of them didn't have Chu Fengmian's Ice Fire Divine Body. In the Crimson Fire Ridge, they could only use their spiritual energy to resist the heavenly fire. Every moment, they consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Chapter 1380. Why is this kid getting closer and closer to the center of the Crimson Fire Ridge? Coppergate Emperor Gu and Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu had been pursuing Chu Fengmian all this time, but as they ventured deeper into the Crimson Fire Ridge, even they found it difficult to withstand the scorching heat of the heavenly fire. They had to expend a great deal of spiritual energy at every moment in order to withstand the heavenly fire. Now, they were even deeper into the Crimson Fire Ridge, and Chu Fengmian's figure was still in front of them. However, when they looked up, they could already see Chu Fengmian's figure. Don't worry about him. He's slowed down and can't withstand the heavenly fire. Let's catch up. He's already at the end of his tether. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's expression was ferocious as he urged his flight light to give chase. Falling into the Crimson Fire Ridge was an extremely dangerous thing to do, but when he thought of the celestial item on Chu Fengmian's person, the brocade cloth, he decided to give it his all. Coppergate Emperor Gu and Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu pushed their flight lights to their limits. It's about time. Chu Fengmian slowed to a stop at the edge of the Crimson Fire Ridge's center. This was the limit of his divine body of ice and fire. Going forward, Chu Fengmian would also have to consume his spiritual power to resist the burning of the heavenly fire. However, it was enough for him here. "Little bastard, let's see where you can run to now." Two figures flew over as soon as Chu Fengmian stopped. They were Coppergate Emperor Gu and Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's gaze fell on Chu Fengmian, seething with murderous intent. "Little bastard, do you think you can escape death by coming to the Crimson Fire Ridge? You've offended this old man, and you won't be able to escape even if you run to the ends of the earth. Let's see where you can run to today." Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's voice was incomparably cold. This was a hopeless situation. Behind Chu Fengmian was the center of the fiery Crimson Ridge. Even Emperor Gu couldn't enter the center of the fiery Crimson Ridge. Even the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu didn't come back alive after entering it. In his opinion, Chu Fengmian had already been forced into a corner. It would be difficult for him to escape death today. Brother Buried Thunder, there's no need to waste words with him. Just kill him. Emperor Gu stared at Chu Fengmian with fear in his eyes. It was obvious that Chu Fengmian had escaped from their encirclement last time, which made him somewhat fearful of Chu Fengmian. "Little bastard, you have no respect for your elders and provoked an elder. Today, on behalf of the Holy Dragon Mystery Realm, I'll clean you up." Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu said righteously. "If you kill yourself now, this old man will leave your corpse intact." "Really? Old fart, if you kneel down and commit suicide now, I can leave your corpse intact. Do you think that you two trash are my match?" Chu Fengmian sneered, his eyes full of mockery. "Junior, you're courting death." Boom! Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu was instantly enraged when he heard Chu Fengmian call him an old fart. In his fury, spiritual power erupted and turned into balls of lightning in his palm. Countless bolts of lightning swept towards Chu Fengmian in a single move. Boom! 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 "You want to kill me with this kind of strength?" Chu Fengmian's lips curled in disdain as he shouted coldly. "Sword!" Whoosh! Both swords appeared in Chu Fengmian's hands. Chu Fengmian pointed his sword at the sea of lightning. Sword chi erupted in an instant. Tens of thousands of tyrannical sword chi slashed out from the swords and landed in the sea of lightning. Immediately, the sea of lightning was split into pieces. What? What kind of sword technique is this? How can it be so powerful? Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu jumped in fright. Although he'd seen Chu Fengmian's sword technique before, he hadn't been its target at the time. Only when he personally faced Chu Fengmian's sword technique did he realize just how terrifying it was. Chu Fengmian had mercilessly destroyed the palm strike he'd condensed with spiritual power. However, Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu was still an Emperor Gu after all. He'd experienced countless battles of life and death, so he immediately reacted. Lightning condensation. Turn into a barrier. Countless bolts of lightning began to coalesce in front of Emperor Gu. They intertwined and fused together to form a lightning barrier in front of him. At the same time, a bolt of lightning suddenly coalesced behind Chu Fengmian and exploded. Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu's killer moves came one after the other. However, Chu Fengmian seemed to have anticipated this move. He turned around and slashed out with his sword again. The lightning was mercilessly destroyed by Chu Fengmian's blade. At the same time, the thunderbolt barrier was also shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword chi. The remaining power of the sword chi bombarded the ancient emperor's body, forcing him back and causing him to spit out a mouthful of essence blood. "What are you waiting for?" Submerged Thunder Emperor Gu roared furiously. Emperor Gu couldn't hold back any longer. His figure flickered as he approached Chu Fengmian in the blink of an eye and punched at his chest. The moment he punched out, countless ancient runes appeared on the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor's fist. These ancient runes seemed to have originated from the most ancient primordial age. They were much more ancient than the Middle Age or the Ancient Antiquity Age. The punch seemed to originate from the primeval era and was imbued with extreme brute force. It was Emperor Gu's ultimate move. Emperor Gu came to his senses after seeing Chu Fengmian injure submerged Thunder Emperor Gu with ease. Chu Fengmian's strength was definitely on par with Emperor Gu's. He was a formidable foe. He was prepared to kill Chu Fengmian with a single blow and not give him a chance to retaliate. Do you think you're stronger than me, Emperor Gu? I've only spared your life before. Now, I'll show you the difference in strength. Chu Fengmian sneered and moved his titanic sword. The sword itself was a heavy sword of extreme strength. Spurred on by Chu Fengmian's sword intent, the titanic sword suddenly shrouded itself in the shadow of a sword. In the blink of an eye, it was 30,000 meters tall, as if the titanic crescent godly sword had grown 10,000 times larger than it used to be. Destroy. Boom. Chapter 1381. Emperor Gu's fist was shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword shadow. With a loud boom, it was blown to smithereens in the air. After crushing the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor's fist wind, the huge sword blade shrouded his body. The Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor could feel his body trembling under the pressure of the sword shadow. His eyes were filled with shock. Emperor Gu had always relied on his invincible strength to establish himself in the Daluo Star Field. But now, his strength was being crushed by Chu Fengmian. The 10,000 Zhang sword shadows enveloped the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor. The Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor could feel every bit of his flesh and blood stinging in pain as they were constantly being destroyed. Ancient Bronze Door. At this point, the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor was going all out. He had used his final trump card. Boom! Right before the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor, an ancient bronze gate gradually materialized. The moment the bronze door appeared, the surrounding heavenly flames were shattered. Emperor Gu poured a large amount of spiritual energy into the door. Ancient runes began to appear on the ancient copper gate. These ancient runes were the same as the ones that had appeared on the ancient Emperor of the Copper Gate. It was a spiritual artifact that surpassed the ancient and primordial era. It came from the most ancient of primordial eras. Suppress. The ancient Emperor of the Bronze Gate roared. The primordial Bronze Gate began to rotate slowly. Countless golden lights shot out from the gate towards Chu Fengmian's sword shadow. Under the golden light, Chu Fengmian's condensed sword shadow was shattered into pieces. In an instant, the violent spiritual energy bombarded the surroundings. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was as if the entire Scarlet Fire Ridge was about to collapse under the power of the bronze door. Chu Fengmian's body was hit by several beams of golden light. In a flash, the 129,600 fleshly crystals' defense was shaken by the beams of golden light, and a hole almost appeared in it. What spiritual artifact is this? Chu Fengmian's eyes widened when he saw the bronze door. The power of the bronze door was beyond Chu Fengmian's imagination. It was no longer in the category of a heaven-grade spiritual artifact. It was close to an extreme-grade immortal weapon. Even Chu Fengmian's dual swords might not be a match for the bronze door. This primeval bronze door is definitely something good. I must get it. The benefits of obtaining this primeval bronze door are too great. Chu Fengmian was extremely excited. He could tell that the ancient Emperor of the Bronze Door could not muster the full power of the archaic Bronze Door. In other words, the archaic Bronze Door had only unleashed a portion of its power, and that was enough to almost shatter Chu Fengmian's body. The true power of the Bronze Door wasn't contained within the human Emperor jar in Chu Fengmian's hand. Dual swords. Heaven and earth. Without hesitation, Chu Fengmian struck with both swords. Two bursts of sword chi blasted towards the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor. You think you can break my bronze door with such a puny sword art? As soon as the immemorial Bronze Gate appeared, the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor was brimming with confidence. This immemorial Bronze Gate was his strongest trump card. Outsiders only knew that Emperor Gu possessed a bronze door that could travel through space, but they didn't expect the door's true power to be so weak. The ancient Emperor of the Bronze Gate struck out with his palm. The immemorial Bronze Gate was activated and golden light filled the sky. When the two streaks of sword chi neared the sword light, they were shattered mercilessly. "Give me your life, kid." After shattering Chu Fengmian's sword chi, the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor grinned malevolently and activated the immemorial Bronze Gate. Countless golden lights were emitted from the immemorial Bronze Gate and blasted towards Chu Fengmian. Blade of Lightning. Behind Chu Fengmian, the ancient Emperor of Buried Thunder also approached Chu Fengmian silently. Countless thunderbolts surged in his palm, condensing into a blade in his palm. This blade was formed purely by thunderbolts, and one could hear countless thunderbolts roaring within it when one approached it. Heavenly Lightning Blade. Rumble. The blade aimed straight for Chu Fengmian's back. It wanted to combine with the bronze door's power to kill Chu Fengmian. "You overestimate yourself, still trying to ambush me? I might be a bit wary if you could exert the full power of the bronze door, but now? All of you, break!" Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a worn-out jar suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's palm. The Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian was no longer the same as before. He was able to channel the jar's power in a completely different manner. With the infusion of Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy, ancient runes began to appear on the Emperor Jar. Each rune could instantly kill a true emperor. There were more than 100 runes condensing inside the jar. Rumble. A deafening sound reverberated throughout the world. Under Chu Fengmian's activation, the incomparably ancient power of the Runhuang emerged. Behind the human Emperor Jar, a figure slowly condensed. This figure was the human emperor, the supreme expert who had once enlightened all living beings. The silhouette of the human emperor pointed out with a single finger. However, this seemingly casual finger was unstoppable by any sort of power. The Sky Thunder Cleaver and the golden light of the primeval bronze door were unable to withstand the human emperor's finger. They were shattered by this finger. In the end, the power of the finger landed heavily on the Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor. The Bronze Gate Ancient Emperor's body was smashed into pieces by the finger. Every drop of his blood essence was shattered and exploded in midair. Emperor Gu was destroyed with a single finger. The bronze door, having lost its master, broke through space in an attempt to escape. Trying to escape? Chu Fengmian's figure flashed and rushed to the front of the archaic bronze gate. He grabbed it with his big hand and a wave of spiritual energy immediately enveloped the gate. All of the treasures in Emperor Gu's spatial ring weren't as valuable as the door itself. There was no way Chu Fengmian would let it escape. After losing its master, the power of the archaic bronze door weakened a lot. Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy suppressed it and then flew into Chu Fengmian's body. Inside, Chu Fengmian's devouring power suppressed the door and erased its power. "You!" Chu Fengmian activated the Emperor Jar and killed Emperor Gu with a single finger. Buried Lightning Emperor Gu looked as if he'd seen a ghost. He stared at Chu Fengmian with a complicated expression, but a smile soon appeared on his face. "You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.